Welcome, everyone. And I know what you're saying. Why are we back in the Brady Bunch grid?
What?
Why did Jacob just
Why?
start playing Yu-Gi-Oh?
What?
My computer just said you just launched Yu-Gi-Oh. You gonna play in the background? We just started
Dude,
the
I
podcast.
have-
Bro, he
I have-
launched.
Finally started the podcast,
Bro,
like,
he
I'm
launched
playing.
Yu-Gi-Oh 5 seconds into the podcast. Whoa, you're
let's run through it.
exposed.
All right, let's
No,
run through
it's-
it. Let's run
All
through
right,
it.
let's run through it. Whenever anyone got on a Teams call in video world, it was always like this. You have your Teams call.
Yeah.
All right. You're honed in.
Yes.
And then on the other window, you had something else going because you knew that you're like, I'm not gonna pay attention. Like I pay attention.
3 seconds on the
3
podcast.
seconds,
And
Jacob.
you were in the Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah.
Well,
I
hold on.
couldn't
To
even
be
get through. I
fair,
said
I
hello,
had it. No,
everyone.
you're not listening. I had it loaded.
Was it when I messed up Brady Bunch? And
No,
you were like,
my
that's it. I'm
God.
playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, my-
Blue eyes.
Okay,
white
look.
Holy
you guys
crap.
look. I had it loaded beforehand. All right, but it
God.
crashed. It crashed.
You're caught in
So I was like,
4K.
I have to reload it.
Caught in 4K.
I
Oh
just had
my
to reload
God.
it, and here I am now. Like it's
Dude,
reloaded.
I'm glad
and-
it doesn't pull up web history when you're.
Good
No,
luck with
hey,
your
another
good
podcast.
luck with your duel over there, Jacob.
Dude, I'm here. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff here, so nothing to worry about.
This reminds me of I had a friend in high school, and the teacher it was when the new Pokemon Platinum or no Pearl and Diamond had come out, and they were like all like devices away. You cannot play this in class. And my friend was kind of friends with the teacher, and he just didn't care most of the time. But we're all learning in class. He's teaching. He's up there teaching, and I look over, and I knew that my friend and this other guy was battling. So he has his DS, and they're kind of like under the desk playing right here, and the whole class is invested because he would look over and go. Like they were just making noises, and we were waiting to see who would win. Like the whole class was invested at this point.
Let's see.
And
That's
then
awesome.
and then you just heard, dang it, he hits the desk really hard. Dang it. And the teacher stops and looks at him, and he goes, I got the answer wrong. And we just lost it because like we knew they were playing like during when we were supposed to be paying attention. So that's what it reminded me of.
Well,
That's
I can do
awesome.
both.
Jacob is going to be dueling while we do this podcast, but we want to welcome you to the DweeBros podcast. I am Zach, the Forsaken One. I'm joined by Travis, the Traveler, and Jacob, the Jubilant One.
The jubilant.
I
What does
like
that even
that.
mean?
It's like happy.
Oh, okay. There
overjoyed.
you go.
You're
Oh,
happy
okay,
to be
yeah.
playing Yu-Gi-Oh again.
I'm happy to
um,
be here. I'm happy to
Yeah,
be
and
everywhere.
he's happy to be here at the same time as well.
Multitasking is a great thing. COVID taught us how to do that. We're allowed
Yeah.
to do it.
And speaking of COVID, I finally caught the mother effer. I did catch COVID.
Oh
it's
man, I'm
it's like the
sorry.
Forsaken Pokemon.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that right off the bat because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of cool stuff to talk about that I don't know if I have a lot to talk about outside of what I've done. So I caught COVID, and whenever I get sick, I have done wacko things. I quarantine away from anybody else in the house, and I just get zoned in on some type of media. One time was Witcher 3, and I beat all of Witcher 3. That's all I did and sunk like a week into just playing that nonstop. I got so sick one time I watched a 9-hour Holocaust documentary and just got lost in sadness. Like I am a psychopath. I don't know why I do these things. Don't ask me why. And I got COVID and I sat down and I've been like kind of gamed out. I've played so many games and Gran Turismo and the PSVR and stuff. And I sat down and I like got the positive test. Like I was feeling bad and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Quarantining away. So I locked myself in my basement. My wife has had the upstairs. I've been downstairs. And before I got sick on TikTok, TikTok. That's what they're going to start calling it once they ban it.
Yeah.
I was scrolling through and seeing Walking Dead memes. And it was like really funny memes. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but it's the one where the main character, Rick, was like, rules. There are no rules. We're lost. Like the way he talks. And like they would just have all these different memes with that type of format. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go through the entirety of The Walking Dead. And
When
I
you
started
told us
watching.
this, I was like, this guy's lost.
I when I say I've only watched The Walking Dead, I would wake up, watch The Walking Dead, like I would eat lunch and stuff, but I would watch nonstop until I would go to bed at like 11, like midnight every night. So I'd wake up at like 10, eat, maybe like fall asleep during the middle of the day because I was so sick, wake back up and keep watching this. A part also connected to this is that the show is kind of creepy. There's zombies, of course, and I don't think we need to explain what Walking Dead is about, but there's zombies, of course, in it. And there's like some creepy, scary, weird moments in it. So when I would watch 12 hours of the freaking Walking Dead, when it would get towards midnight, I would pop some NyQuil to like go to sleep, but I was like, I don't want to like let that be. I have a palate cleanser. So my routine has been I was watching a little parts of the documentary on Netflix, also on Netflix, Bernie Madoff's The Monster of Wall Street. And that's how I was cleansing my palate, is seeing like this guy that literally like did the biggest Ponzi scheme in American history, in the world actually. So I have done that since last Monday.
So you've done that for 7 days straight.
Yes.
How do you like stay sane?
I'm not. And I knew I was really losing it because and I'll talk a little bit about I won't spoil. Well, Jacob, have you watched The Walking Dead?
Dude, I tried. It sucked, and I quit.
Okay. I'll spoil something. I don't know how much more you want me guys to talk about it or
Oh,
whatever, but
you can go for it, man.
Go right ahead.
I am curious if it's a show you recommend, because I watched the first season and I liked it, but I didn't just keep with it after that.
so yeah, I'll get into the later thing I was talking about, but that makes this even funnier that I started watching it. But I started watching The Walking Dead in 2010, the premiere date. I actually started watching this and was excited for it because Frank Darabont, the person who did The Shawshank Redemption, worked on that first season of the show, and I knew he was like directing it and working on it. So I watched it, and I got through that first season, and it is a 7 out of 10. That first season. I don't know how far you got into it, Jacob, or how I don't know.
Like 4 episodes. Like
Okay.
4 episodes in.
Okay, so not very far at all.
Nah, it wasn't good.
The first season is 6 episodes, and it is a basic like, hey, there's zombies, and there's this character named Rick Grimes. He was a sheriff before the world went, to crap, and it's about following him and the weird stuff, like him discovering that the world has turned to this and there's zombies now and all this stuff. And so there's 6 episodes. You get, a basic kind of story. I start season 2 and it is spinning its wheels. A little girl gets lost in the group and they're like, we got to find her. We're going to find her. That's my Rick Grimes impression. Got to find her. So he goes into the woods. They're looking for this girl. They're looking for this girl. They're looking for this girl. They keep at 5 episodes in. I'm like, I cannot take it. I do not care. And I quit. I said, this show sucks. Who cares? Every year when people were talking about the show, I was like, I just didn't have any interest until those memes popped up. And I was like, I need to give this show a shot. Another thing that made me want to take on this endeavor was that the show finally ended last year in 2022. They did give it a finale season, and it's 11 freaking seasons long. To the point where I was like, you know what? I'm not sure all 11 seasons are going to be quality storytelling. But I am at the very end of season 7. That's how much I've watched, and each season is 16 episodes long. Each episode is 45 minutes. If you want to calculate that, that is, I have dumped a ton of hours into this show.
A ton of time.
So, what are my thoughts as someone that turned away from The Walking Dead, who said, no, this show is, I'll pass on it. I have other more important things to do. Now that I have no more important things to do, how is The Walking Dead? I really, really enjoy this show. If you come into it with the right frame of mind, which is mine's fricked up by COVID, No, you have to come into the show where it is a corny Lost. If you wanted me to explain it in 2 words, it's corny Lost. I love Lost, and this show starts to unravel these mysteries and these different things are going on, these different communities and stuff. Like, how does the world rebuild from this? What actually happens when you don't have a government? What actually happens when you don't have systems? How does the world rebuild from those systems, and how do you like interact with humanity after this happens? And that's what the show explores. And sometimes it's corny, other times it's extremely brutal, to the point where I was shocked. There was and maybe people that are watching mini spoilers or spoilers coming up for this, but there was a part I wasn't watching, but it was 2015. I think it was like end of season 6. A certain character, you probably have seen him in memes and all this other stuff, but his name is Negan. He's got the baseball bat with the barbed wire on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about? You probably
Yeah,
I
seen
know
it.
who you're talking
familiar.
about.
That came out, and I just could. I was hearing so much stuff at work and all this other stuff of like, I'm quitting this show. This show, I can't believe what they've done. And I knew a character had died, and I actually, that was the only thing that got spoiled from me, is I remembered who died, because people could not shut up about it. But everything else I like had forgotten. Watching these memes and different stuff, I had forgot. But this one stood out because people just were so adamant, like, against watching the show again. Kenny said he had quit at this point, which I get. Like, watching it is like, it was so overtly brutal what they did to certain character. But no, I love it. And where I'm at right now is where I think people bounced. You know, they already bounced and stuff, and I'm at the end of season 7. It is now turning into Final Fantasy. It's turning into these different communities, and I'm loving it. I'm like, oh, this is like an RPG, and they're like certain communities they're and groups of people they're meeting, and it's like interesting. It's like very fun. And it's like taking on something that's like crazy is where they're at. They're taking on this crazy thing, and they're kind of like building up this group, and they're like, hey, do you want to help me? And you know, what's it going to take to like gain your trust? And like seeing these wacky Looney Tunes like personalities together, and you start to really love these characters a lot. So the one thing I was going to talk about, where I was like coughing, I couldn't stop coughing. I was so sick, my throat was hurting, I was coughing, I was like, oh my gosh. And there's a season where they find a prison, and they clear out the prison from zombies, and they're like, we're going to make our stronghold here. And they do that, but people start to get a like illness, like a flu or something, and they have to quarantine them in a certain part of this prison. So I'm there sitting there like taking like all this cough syrup and all this other medicine, and I'm like, I am the Walking Dead. I have become the Walking Dead.
You're in their show.
But I'm in the show.
Well,
But
that's really cool.
I don't know if I would recommend it to certain people. I'm in a certain place where it's like, this is fun to me. Like, I'm losing myself in this world. Like, I'm literally playing 0 games. I'm watching 0 movies. I only did this. And for that, it's like a journey. It's a fun journey. And I've heard Jacob talk about it before with Naruto,
Yeah.
where it's like you fall in love with the characters. That's this type of show, except I know it's not 3 jillion episodes. It's 11 seasons, which is still a lot. But I'm like, I really like these characters, and their interactions are really funny in the moments and stuff. So brutal show, very brutal show. I was surprised with, like I said, with that kill that they did and that thing that happened. But and yeah, I really have experienced it. But that's really literally the only thing. Oh no, I do have another show I'll talk about later, because I've talked for 30 years. But
Well, I think that's
that's all
really
I've done.
fun. I think that's really
That's all I've
cool
done.
that's what you dove into. And yeah, I was making fun of it in our group chat, but I mean, I think that makes sense. It's like a comfort food type show for you right now, and it's fun, and that's a super popular show. People freaking loved it. And
Yeah.
there were a lot of people that stuck with it, and there were a lot of spinoffs too. So
Yeah, there's like multiple
Yeah.
spinoffs, and I remember asking, I think Zach or somebody, and I was like,
Mhm.
it's called Fear of the Walking Dead is the one spinoff, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
how
there's
did
something
that?
like that.
I was like, how did that go? Is that like still going on? Are they in that? And he was like, oh, it's on the 4th season right now, or 3rd season. I was like, what? And
They just
uh,
pump out the content around that world. That's all they do.
So I really like it a lot. It wouldn't be first to recommend to anybody, but where I'm at now, I'm at the season 7. I was like, I really dig what they're doing. Is like what I'm into. Is like this taking on this bigger thing than themselves, and you love the characters and yeah.
Well, the natural question is then, how does that compare to The Last of Us, which just wrapped up?
If you had to choose, I would choose The Last of Us. Last of Us is the storytelling, everything in Last of Us is supreme, and this is kind of a cornier, edgier at times, kind of like I don't know. There's even fluff. I'm like, move on. Like there's certain episodes where I'm like, shut up. Like we get it. Like what you're trying to do. I don't think we need 16 episodes every season to any show, really. That's what I love about HBO in general, and most of those shows they kind of cut down. They're like, what do we need like to tell the story? Whereas this is that it's not normally a show I would watch because it's 16 episodes per season. They let some stuff draw out, and you're falling in love more with the characters, but that does create a connection that you probably couldn't get with 10 episodes, and the amount of characters they have. I mean, even looking back at Lost, the amount of characters they had and plots and subplots that they had to do, maybe you can't do that in 10 episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I would say Last of Us is way better, but this scratches a different itch.
Well, and I ask because when Last of Us first started popping, I was seeing a lot of people on Twitter that don't play games, like TV critics and stuff, like, kind of debating, like, I don't get the hype around The Last of Us. Now, as it went on, they did, and people started to like it. Like, I don't get it. This just feels like Walking Dead again. Like, we've done this. And it's just so funny. Like, they didn't realize how Last of Us sets itself apart, and they were coming from the TV world where zombie TV has been done a million times. So they were kind of having that, what is this show HBO's doing? I get it's based on a game. It's just kind of interesting. Like,
and it's funny that like those people got to where I was in that time frame of 2010, like those early 2010s, we were inundated with zombie media. So much so I was sick of it. So when they announced so to go back on like them saying that is like The Last of Us game, when it was first shown, I love Naughty Dog. I love Naughty Dog, when they showed it. I was kind of bummed. I was like, they're doing a zombie game. Why would you do that? I was just so sick of zombie stuff that I was like not on board. And of course I came around.
Yeah.
Once I saw what they were doing, but at the same time, it's like, oh, this is different. You know what I mean? Like they weren't doing the same stuff.
This isn't what it was.
So it's funny that like I could see that people coming off the Walking Dead train to this new show is like, what's all this? We're sick of this. It's like, I was sick of that back then, but it's different. It's a different type of
I do think it's different though nowadays with the streaming platform, that they don't have to make such long content as it used to do. Like back when you ran on cable, like they wanted to have their show on cable every week, where I don't think it pays as much to have it as long running on streaming.
I was gonna say, I've been like, while I'm doing like going through the seasons, I'm looking at the viewership of each season, and it's going like down. But that's during the time when people were kicking cable. Like I'm in like 2016, so like towards the 2010s, like people started finally jumping off it started going less and less every year, people on cable. So, but it is also funny seeing like when that one season premiere and like who died and stuff, and then they dropped 5 million. Like the biggest drop from one episode to the next was that. Like people were absolutely done with the show, but I respected them. It gave me, I was just like, wow, to do that. But also at the same time this season, after that happened, our characters have been getting their butts kicked. Every single episode was so just morose and dark and dreary for everybody. Whereas that had happened before for like 5 episodes and they'd be out of like their predicament, you know?
Yeah.
But this has been like a whole season of like getting the crap kicked out of them and stuff. So I've respected it because it's so much more fulfilling when the characters get out of that predicament. You know what I mean? So
well, and I don't want to.
I'm liking it more than ever. So,
and not to get too into specifics, but it sounds like there's an interesting parallel to certain things with Negan and certain things he does to characters, and things that occur in the next couple seasons of whatever Last of
Yeah.
Us. So it's just interesting, like how that will play. I've been wondering that, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That the show does a great job. I was like, because I thought I judged the show prematurely, and I think I just was maybe a little bit cynical towards the show
Yeah.
back in, I was in my early 20s and stuff when this came out. I was a little bit cynical about it because I was like, maybe this is surface level stuff. And season 1 was a little bit not too deep, at that time. But there is parts, and there was an episode recently I was like, dang, that is some good like character development and like stuff that they're bouncing off of between these characters. It's like this show has a layer to it. There's a layer of like trying to. The deepest thing with the show is like how do you treat another human being when there's no systems, when there's no government? Like, do you trust them? How much do you trust them? Like, okay, it's gotten some characters really hurt by trusting, so they don't trust. And what end of that pendulum are you on? And there's been some like really cool like moral predicaments and stuff they've put the characters into, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool. This is really good. So
I liked the
Nice.
first season, so I'm glad that you watched it. I think that's cool, and appreciate that. You'll have to update us as you make your way to the end here, the next stretch of things. But
yeah,
I mean, we did get a full season of Last of Us, though. Like, we haven't. The last time we were together, I'd only seen 2 episodes of it, and it's fully out now. We didn't talk about the ending of it last time, did we? Because it wasn't out yet.
no.
How'd you guys end up liking that, Jacob? You finished it too, right?
I did. It was good. I don't think there's like really much of a complaint I have. It all comes down to, do they do season 2 right? Which is what I'm hearing is it's going to be a little bit more of the growing up period that we're going to have. So Abby's probably going to spend. We're going to see some stuff about Abby and her little side quest, probably about her growing up with what happened after what happened. And then on the other side, you have Ellie growing up in Wyoming now. So we're probably going to see those 2 things, that's what I'm hearing is going to happen. So I thought season 1 was good. I mean, it was exactly what I would want. I don't have anything that's astounding. I don't have anything that's groundbreaking. It's just good.
Yeah, I really liked it. My only complaint, and my or Pierce, who does the hangouts with me, it was my friend Brad who had the same complaint as I did, which is, as it went on, it was like they set up a very cool twist to the clickers that was not in the game, which is if you step on certain ground, like where there's spores or all this other stuff, they're like a unit. They're all like a one brain organism, and they wake up and they can like figure out where that's at and come at you. All this cool setup, and then they did not pay any of that off whatsoever.
They didn't use it.
They had one really cool thing with the bloaters and all that stuff, and that was a cool like moment, but they should have had just a pinch more.
Yeah.
I'm not like super into action stuff, but like a pinch more would have sealed fighting and action.
I'm with you on that. It was interesting. I enjoy the human kind of tribal element of that, but it was like, even when they went to the college, there was none. Like there was really none for probably 4 or 5 episodes. Extremely limited interaction with the clickers. I don't think any in Salt Lake, any at the college, any at the town. Which, I mean, so it's interesting. It was a little different that way. And I agree with you more so. They didn't use that kind of hive mind element much. So that was weird. They also only really used that spreading through the mouth thing twice, I think, which that was different too. And I kind of was wondering. So I don't know. Maybe they'll build on that concept with their plans in the second season. But
it just felt like they could have done with maybe a couple more episodes and just add a couple more fighting things. Like, it felt like it just was like it cut out. And arguably, for the best, you don't want to have all the fighting that was in the game that filled out the game and padded that out in a show. That would be boring too. But there was too much taken out. Like, I felt like they were doing good at first because, like, okay, you're taking these good chunks that we love, awesome. But as it went along, it was like you can take a second and spread this out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
spread out these moments a little bit, but they were just like big chunks, and then like you
Yeah.
got the 3 good chunks from the
I mean,
game or
they could have
something.
done
But
a whole episode with like that high school setting when you fall in the basement, and like they could have
yeah,
done some
See-
stuff with that type of a vibe. They didn't have it,
No.
but
But
that's
I
okay.
thought-
Still was really good. But yeah, I'm with you on that part.
that's my only
Yeah.
big complaint. Acting was amazing. I thought they did great job on the casting. Amazing
Yeah.
job on the casting. It was cool to see as like a fan of the game them bring the voice actors in and give them a nod. I
Yeah,
thought that
Troy
was a
Baker
cool.
did great.
Yeah, and it was a cool role for Ellie's voice actress to be the mom, basically.
Yeah.
Of Ellie. Thought that was a cool role.
I
for
didn't know
her.
how I felt about that right at first. I was like, I don't know if I needed these types of answers, but I ended up liking it
Yeah,
because we don't really know how she was immune in the games.
But
So
it
when
was
they,
cool.
but it was cool. I was just like, where is this going? And then it tied all together, and I didn't realize at first who that was. That was Ellie from the games. I didn't realize it at first, and
yeah,
then it dawned on me kind of like later in the scene. But
yeah.
yeah,
But I'm glad there was one thing I definitely needed out of this freaking show, and that was don't mess up the giraffe scene and don't mess up the ending.
Yeah,
And
they
they did
nailed
it.
it.
They did
Yeah.
good. They nailed it.
I
So,
thought the ending. People were complaining about that, and I was like, "What? Like, I don't get what the complaints were. I thought it was perfect."
They did it 1-to-1. If you were
yeah, they did it
complaining,
1-to-one
just
with
go
the
play the
game.
game.
Yeah. If they didn't
I'm-
like it, they didn't like what was in the game either. So that's
Yeah.
fine. But no, that was good. So we'll see season 2. I think we talked about that maybe even last podcast. Don't need to reiterate it, but in our big giant 3.5 hour review, you can watch on the channel of Last of Us Part 2. I did say famously, if this was a TV show, maybe I'd like this more, and we are going to witness that.
We gonna find
so We'll
out.
see if I like it more very soon. I think that's going to probably be like into 2024, into 2025. It sounds like they're taking their time with it. It's going to be 2 years or whatever, but we will review it when it comes out, and I think they've already said it's going to be multiple seasons and stuff. So we'll see how they do that.
You know, it's kind of funny, and this will connect to the next topic I was going to go to. If somebody asked me what's the definitive Last of Us like experience for that first part, it would be kind of hard. Like, I think the show captured like sides of Joel that I don't know that first game I felt the same way about. I'd have to go replay it. And I thought Ellie, they captured that essence perfectly. And I think like the Bill and Frank stuff much better in the like infinitely better in the
Yeah.
show than in the game.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, there's just certain set pieces and additional like fleshing out and breathing. Like by the end of the game, you have spent 20 hours, 15 hours
Yeah.
with those characters. Whereas at the end of the show, it's been like 7 hours. You know them, but it's not. So in like that last sequence going up through the hospital in a game, it worked in the show. It works so much better. You're out of ammo. You're like desperate. You're just trying to climb
Yeah.
these floors. And so I don't know what I would say is the definitive version. I think that they're both. It depends on what you like better, shows or games. And if you're more of a show
Yeah.
person, watch the show. You know, I don't know what you
I
guys
think
think about that.
They both
but-
can exist in that meet. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're both fine. And honestly, it's just a different. It's not even a different perspective. I wouldn't even sit there and say like there's anything different about the two.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I just don't think.
There's really cool moments in the game where you're just walking and a certain conversation will go on or a certain thing, or you'll read a note about certain characters that died in a certain room or something, stuff that you
Yeah.
can't get from the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen people bounce back now to the game, which is cool, that have said, "Oh, I really like this. I would like to experience the game," and just have either play
Yeah.
it themselves or watch their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever play it, and just
Yeah.
check it out from there, which is cool because I think there's a whole other side to that relationship, and like you said, the longer you spend with them, and like, oh,
Yeah.
but-
Well, and on that note, like, so I just wrapped up probably one of the longer freaking anime experiences. It's been like a 5-year process because it's not that long. I'm just slow. I finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I think I've talked about it on here before. There's FMA 2003, which was like 60 episodes, 20-minute episodes. And that was a show that started made by Bones Animation Studio, Square Enix.
Mhm.
The first half of that show is the manga, and then they ran out of manga, and then they went their whole own direction, um, and finished the story their own way, and it is like crazy different than what was in the manga. And then that same studio, like I think the 2003 show ended in 2004. In 2008 or 9, they just did the story from the beginning again, but following the manga. And what I always heard people say is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, one of the best animes. Just watch that. Just watch that. And then I would dive more into it, and people are like, well, actually, they rushed through the beginning part of this because they assume you already watched this. So they kind of shortchanged the first arc. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to watch both of these. That's how I'm going to do this. And that is, if you want to do the Full Metal Alchemist thing, that's what I was going to say is you kind of have to do both, because I don't know. It's same as Last of Us show versus game. They both do things better than the other. And it's the weirdest thing of, I know the one is more based on the manga. I don't know that I like it better than the original, but the original has other limitations. So, I don't know. It's just interesting. Like
So watch both.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is more of a typical shonen. Like it just has more of that typical plot arc of the kid who trains and he goes and he defeats the bad guys, and it's very positive. Whereas FMA, the original, it's more melancholy and dark, and it has an extremely melancholy ending where it's not like about people dying or anything, but like where they leave those brothers and those characters, it literally affected me very deeply, because it was like, what? Like, you're going to end it with that? And it was appropriate, because a big theme in the show is equivalent exchange. These guys are alchemists, so they can make something from other things. They can make from metal on the ground, they can turn it into a spear, into whatever. But their whole fundamental principle is equivalent exchange. To make something, you have to destroy something. And so that is the issue. The whole game is there's something with their characters that they're trying to make or create or bring back that they can't equivalent exchange for it. And the way they tie that up in the original FMA, the anime guys that just went off on their own and made their own story, was beautiful, and I loved it, but it was very, very, very bleak, and like it is equivalent exchange, like, and so it reminded me of Only God Forgives, the movie, like the ending of that, of like, well, you didn't die, but like this is what's left, like it was like, oh my God, this is how they're ending it. Whereas Brotherhood, is more just fun, action, crazy, beautiful animation, great. They let certain characters breathe more. There's a whole other like B cast of characters that you don't get in the other one. And so I don't know. It just kind of left me. I liked the experience of watching both shows. I don't know what it was. My attention span with both of them, there's just 1 or 2 degrees off. I could not watch more than 2 or 3 of these without getting antsy and wanting to do something else. It wasn't like a binging type of show for me, which it's an anime. They're not long episodes, but that's why it took me a billion freaking years to get through them. But yeah,
I might check
Full
that
Metal
out.
Alchemist,
The
yeah.
only other show I've had that issue with, I have tried this 4 or 5. Like, it's embarrassing, because I usually will stick with a show or stick with a game, and I'll get to a good point into it, or at least quit it if I don't, whatever. I cannot get past 1 episode of Ghost in the Shell, the TV show. The movie is a must watch. The movie is like, you have to see that. The show, I cannot. I don't know what it is. Like you said, like I get on my phone, I'm bored to death, like, and I know it'll be cool. I know it would be awesome and stuff with that world and stuff. I know I would like that, but can't do it. But I do want to check that anime out at some point.
Yeah. Well, the other key thing, and I totally get that. There's one key like type of people in the show called homunculus, and they're like weird, like non-people. The explanation that the anime people went with is so much better than what the manga guy ended up doing. And it's just like, it made me wonder, like, I think people put too much emphasis on original creators sometimes. I know that sounds crazy, but like, I almost like a lot of the tying up the plot twist decisions that the anime people did way more than the original. I don't know if you guys have anything like that where it's like,
I mean, it's the same thing with Last of Us. Like, they took some things from the game and made it better, or
Yes.
explained it a little bit better. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's actually better. That is better than the game.
yeah,
But if you notice, and probably the anime people found this too, is like, there's a reason they're making more of that thing. It's because there's certain core things, and that's why I think the show did good on Last of Us. Is like,
Yeah.
you can't frick up the draft scene, you can't frick up the ending, you can't frick up this conversation between him and like. There's certain things that those creators. That's the reason it's successful as an IP, and like those are core tenets you cannot frick with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
same thing with that Brotherhood is like there's probably core tenets they kept, or there's core things that were the same, or
That they stay
Yeah.
true to.
ideals that were the same there, and it's like they didn't
Yes.
frick it up. Don't frick with it. And
Yeah.
then, but this, it's like we're gonna do this, and it's like, oh, that's way better. Yeah, because like if you see it from other eyes and other people that worked on it and stuff, it's like, well, you know, you fricked up there, or like
Yeah.
we can actually improve this. Like, don't.
Yeah.
That's the thing too. Is like, I think we're in a great like golden age of remakes right now, because we are remaking things, but we're not doing it one for one, because people. Hey, I'm a stickler. Like I was a stickler with Last of Us, like the game and stuff, and then doing a show on it. But as far as like video games, if you play a game from PS2 or GameCube, they did not have the design principles and things that we have. Like climbed the mountain and we got on top of the mountain, saw, oh, that sucks, that sucks.
Yeah.
In hindsight, everything's okay. That don't do that. There's a way better system for that now. We can do that with ammo. We can do that with health, whatever.
There's
Yep.
this option. There's
So
that option.
when they're remaking, that's what I like about Resident Evil 4. I saw where they changed stuff with Ashley or whatever. Like she doesn't just have a health bar now. Like you have to like pick her up instead now, and she doesn't just die. So certain like design things, like we're like, I like that, like meddle with that stuff, because it sucks. Like it's okay to look back at a thing and not say that it sucks, but say we can do this better now, or we
Yeah.
can do this plot point better now in an anime, or we can do this gameplay mechanic. It's okay to say, let's take a spell and go, oh, I like that now. Like
Yeah.
now that we have the new capabilities and new whatever, just do it.
Yeah.
Frick around. It's okay to
Mess
frick
with it.
around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I always say if you want that original, it's right there. Like
Yeah, but if you frick around and it's worse, you're an
Yeah,
idiot, because
yeah.
like
You gotta own
had
it.
you're served like Last of Us, they served it on a silver platter, and for most of the part they took about 70% of that and said yes, and they just used it in the show, copy
Yep.
pasted those moments because they were amazing. They're incredible, like storytelling moments. Oh my gosh, you got it right. Didn't have to do anything. Some of that on that platter was, hey, this is how it spread. Here's how this whatever, and they're like, what if we did
Yeah.
this? And you know what I mean? They talk with Neil
Yeah.
Druckmann. He's like that. I mean, he admitted in interviews, he's like, that was a better ideal.
Yeah.
So do it better.
Yeah.
You know, improve it. But interesting. Yeah. Anime. More anime. I watched the Attack on Titan. They did. This is the my
I
wife.
don't
has
even
been
know how
making
to.
fun of
I don't
this.
even know how to read what you wrote on the notes.
It's
S4P.
season 4.
It's easy. It's season 4's. It's part 3. No, it's part 1 of the part 3 of season
Of the
4.
special.
Of the special. Yes, it's easy. That's
That's all it is. It's not too bad.
I told my wife about this, and she's just been laughing, like mentioning it to me. He's like, "Is that the show with the multiple season parts of seasons of the parts?" I don't know. I love the show, and this has nothing really to do with it, the way they've named it, but it's just freaking weird. They just freaking went Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts 2.5 full mix. I don't know why they couldn't figure out how to name that, or just I think what happened is they were really thinking it was going to be the final season, and it just didn't. So they kept going part 2, and then COVID happened and all that stuff. I don't know. All that to say, they did like an hour special episode. Did you check it out, Jacob?
Yeah, I watched it. It was awesome.
Yeah. As the show has gone on, I've loved it. Every like season more, it's like, oh my gosh, like the stuff that they're doing and the fights and the animation, beautiful. And they get to this special, I'm like, oh shoot, because I kind of got bummed because I was talking with Kenny and I thought it was going to be the whole new season started. But it was actually just this special, and then in the fall, it's one more episode, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
dude,
longer
it's
episode.
weird. It's so weird.
But it seems like one more episode in the fall, and that'll end it. And they might do a movie afterwards. I don't know what they're going to do. But so this is an hour special. Loved it. It freaking it also, I said it gave me goosebumps this last season, like watching certain episodes, certain parts, and I was getting goosebumps in this little special thing. So just my third favorite anime I've ever watched. Hasn't even ended yet, but I just freaking adore this anime. So
I'm just impressed by the level of quality. Like, even though he can make the jokes like this is season 3, part 1 of a
yeah,
2-part special, that's a part 4, technically part 4, whatever you want to call it. The quality of the anime has never dipped.
yeah.
There has never been a moment where I can watch this anime and say that was boring. I rewatched it recently. I went through all 3 seasons. I'm caught up again. I just wanted to get it all full for it. Plus, I was sitting there with my girlfriend. Well, actually, fiance now. I got engaged. Everyone, if you're listening. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's awesome. It's a great thing. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Best video game you can ever play. But
Life.
well, yeah. With all that being said, we were watching and I was like, they just don't. They know what they're doing. The manga, the anime, everything's just so tight and so good. So whatever part it is, even if they give me a movie after they finish up what the manga says they're going to finish up, I'm still going to probably take it all in because it is so good.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna rewatch it all over again too with Chelsea because there's a lot of character names, and I'm in this final season. I'm like, I don't know that person's name at all. I have to like see their face and go, oh, that's the
Dude.
person with that scarf or that.
That
whatever.
happened to me with Full Metal Alchemist towards the last 10
Yeah, I
episodes.
don't
They're
know
bringing
all
back
the characters.
people,
Full
and
Metal
I was like, that
Alchemist.
was 4 years ago. I was like, I don't know who that. They had like big
Like,
reveals.
Who the heck's that?
He get out of the car. It's him, and I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back through with her leading up to the fall, like final part. And
I think that you guys have this is the one I'm gonna die. So I finished Brotherhood, and then I'm finishing the current part of JoJo I'm on, and then I'm stopping JoJo. I got 10 episodes left, and then I'm diving into this. This is what I'm gonna watch
Nice.
Yeah.
next.
Honestly, I think you would love this. I'm surprised you're just now diving into it. To be honest with you.
I liked the pilot. I watched the pilot and I really liked it. Loved it. It was great. It was very tragic, and I know that's just like the first grain of sand in the whole script. But I got a vibe for this for like the tone, and I liked it. It seemed like a cool mystery stuff of what's going on out here and all that. What put me off? I can be so picky and then just give up on something. It was like the second or the third episode, there was a big time jump, and like they were done with Training Academy. And I just like whenever that happens in animes, like what's the one where they're in an MMO? Like it's not an amazing show, but they're in an MMO. Do you guys know what I'm
Dot
talking
hack.
No, it's the one that
Sword
Art
Art.
Online. I was watching Sword Art Online with my brother, and they set up this premise. It was like level 1 to 100, and like level 1 they're on the first level, level 2 they're on the second level. Episode 3, they're on level 38. And I get pissed at that. I'm like, you guys are skipping. Like, I want to know,
What's
like,
funny is
what
I
happened
remember
today?
them
What happened the
being-
next day? What happened the
I
next
remember
day?
them being in training for too long. So
I-
I
maybe-
don't know if
maybe
go
they
back.
were-
I don't know if they go back or something.
I got-
from that episode.
It was a picky thing that I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to keep up with this. And at that time, there was one season, and people had been waiting on a second season for like 2 years. And I was like, do I really want to sign up for this? And then we're going to be waiting
It was
forever,
like 2 or
so-
3 years. It was
Yeah.
a long time before
So-
season 2. So I was kind of hurting because
That is kind of picky, Travis. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest with you. That's picky.
hey, I'm a picky guy with TV stuff sometimes.
I understand
but-
that, but like that's picky.
I know. I'm not saying it's a problem with the show. I'm just telling you why I didn't stick it out for longer. But I'm going to check it out now. And I'm not going to be looking for reasons to I'm excited. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, it does some really cool stuff. But can we get out of the world of watching stuff? Oh my gosh, I've watched 8,000 hours.
Yeah.
Of
I'll tell
Walking
you what
Dead.
you won't be watching. You won't be watching Xbox, Nintendo, or now Ubisoft at E3 this year.
Yeah,
well,
they moved on.
are you guys not coming? I already got our hotels.
I'll be there. It'll be us. We'll have a keynote.
Oh, okay.
That would be impressive, actually. Could you
Yeah.
imagine that?
What would we
scenario?
announce at our keynote?
Jacob, boy, we have a question for you. In episode 4, back in the podcast, you removed your pants. Rumor has it that you weren't wearing anything underneath your pants. Can you confirm that rumor? I did not have sexual relations with that room. I did not do anything in that nature.
I think we'd have a CGI trailer for Backlog Bros Part 2 with no date.
Hey, that get the crowd up. The crowd would be standing up.
That'd be the
Now,
Shenmue
you know what?
3 moment.
Oh my gosh, we'd announce the Kickstarter. We'd have everything we'd want.
Hey, you could make the next episode of Backlog Bros. We're the Backlog Bros. Yeah.
record. We would have. We would buy the rights to Stadia.
Yep.
No, Travis would buy the rights to Stadia and
Yep.
bring it back.
Yep. And I could just have a
So-
show on the channel called Stadia.
There we go. Stadia. Hey, guys,
Stadia.
we're gonna play
Stadia
through Stadia's catalog
And I just
today.
boot up the one Stadia game I own.
Stadia dash it's still here. That'd
It's
be
still
the
here.
subtitle. Yeah, I cannot
I think
believe
it's a bummer.
it's such a bummer. I think I might have told this last at one of the podcasts. Maybe I have COVID fog, but my friend's daughter, he texted me and he said she asked me. I don't know if she's into games now. She's old enough to start to like really getting into the games and stuff. But she said, "How was like E3 back then? Like, because we would be at work freaking out. We're supposed to be working, and we would have E3 live, just freaking out at the announcements and the keynotes would be going, and like we'd be half working, half really not. But it was such an exciting time, and I actually forgot to mention this. And this was a direct, so a little different. But somebody emailed me and they're working on, I didn't tell these guys about this, but somebody emailed me that they're working on a documentary about a like game streamer. I won't say the name or whatever. They're in the middle of all this stuff, but they wanted our reactions to the Switch premiere and wanted permission to use that in this movie.
Go for it.
That we did and stuff. So I was like, yeah, go for it or whatever. But it made me bummed because like that was 2017
Yeah.
when they did that.
That was.
And I feel like it's been a long time since we've gotten like these big announcements or these big like reveals or whatever else. And
It's sad.
We live in the era of instant. Like they'll put out a video. Here's what we got, and you move past it.
The only thing
I want somebody to get up on stage and just have these weird, cringy moments while showing us like the coolest things ever. It's something cool to have everything in one place. And this spreading out just sucks. I mean, we tried it because, it was getting to a point where they were kind of pissed off with E3 and how that was being managed. I get that. But we tried it, and the experiment sucks. It sucks.
I think the last hope is Jeff Keighley, because Game Awards is the closest thing we have.
Yes. The Game Awards is so much fun to like, but it's like once a year we get here and whatever, and it's not quite the same.
It's not. It's not. Yeah.
It's his announcements and it's his little thing, and of course we have fun. But I'm with you. I think it's going to be Jeff Keighley doing his own E3, and I think that's what's building up. They're building up to that point. Well, they'll do something like that, but you got to have the big guys on. You got to have the big three.
Well, and the big three have never been more divided. Especially Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah, that's true.
I just don't like that competitive relationship has deteriorated to the extent I don't know for political reasons they would even like if there was a Game Awards tomorrow and like Xbox was going to I don't think PlayStation would want to be there because there's all these like lawsuits and litigations and calling out through lawyers. Like I don't even think like a couple of years ago they all got on stage together. I don't think that would happen now. I don't think it would. I think it's dead. And dude, so
what if freaking who's the head of Xbox? Phil Spencer?
Phil Spencer.
Yeah, Phil Spencer.
What if freaking Shu Yoshida? That's
it's Jim Ryan is the head of PlayStation.
Okay,
right now.
Jim Ryan comes up and he says, "Keep my mother effing console out of your mother effing mouth," and smacks Phil Spencer.
Oh, dude,
that'd be awesome.
That would be legendary. Actually,
that would be amazing. It might be headed that way.
That would be awesome.
And it's. I feel like we got to a point with E3 where some of the groups were getting keynotes that like Ubisoft had a keynote and we were like, we're skipping this. They're even back at like no one. I don't even know what E3 is at this point. Ubisoft is bowing out.
It's not. It's going to.
It's DOA. If they're, did Sony say yay or nay? Or I mean, Sony was the first to.
I feel like they nayed out a while ago. I don't know if what they've said for this year.
Crazy.
I don't know.
But in other news, Square Enix, there's been some shuffling around.
They're in a weird spot. Everything not Final Fantasy for them is in a rough spot.
But I feel like I've really liked their output the past couple of years. I've really liked the games that they've put out. Final Fantasy VII Remake was really cool. I think people like the Octopath Traveler games they've been putting out. Like certain like RPG. Once they stick to freaking RPGs and not doing freaking was it Avengers or something?
Marvel and yeah.
Like, as long as they're not doing all this, following with trends and they're just trying to do cool stuff, they're good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they
this
fall into a trap where they're like they have to imitate certain trends, and yeah,
they're I'm worried about their future. That's why it got in the notes is they continually seem to put I'm seeing this a lot like on Reset Era. They'll come out and be like this game underperformed. It only did 2 million in sales or whatever. And people will be like, "You thought that was going to do more than 2 million?" Like a game that is unreasonable to expect. I know Avengers bombed, but they keep having like way too high, like their market research
expectation,
sucks. And so they keep coming in under. Like they even said that for Final Fantasy 15 it came in under and it was like that game kind of sucked and it sold a lot of copies. Like I don't like know like they were expecting 20 million for that or something like that if I'm remembering correctly. And so I just don't know. I worry for them. I think that their destiny is going to be Sony probably snatches them up. My fear would be a Tencent or somebody snatches them up, but they feel like they're out there to be bought because they don't know how to manage. And like their new president, they just fired their president, got a new president, and like his first thing he was talking about was like blockchain stuff. And it was like we all agreed like 6 months ago that's not okay. Like
I'm a fan of him. Let's push him. Let's push him through.
I don't know.
We'll tie in our other thing to this as well, the Suicide Squad
Yeah.
stuff, because that got shown, and I had deja vu from the Avengers thing to the point where I felt like it was the same thing where they spent way too long on it. They spent like an hour on it, and it's like just that's the whole game. Same thing with Avengers, and it was like, why is all this live service stuff? And I was seeing people talk about it, and I don't know if it was an article or whatever. It was like, this is just a weird state of the game industry in general, even before this, which is if you start out at something. Do you remember when freaking Breath of the Wild came out and every game was dated? Like Horizon, you couldn't climb a mountain. You're like, what the frick? This sucks. You know what I mean? Like, and does it take? It's going to take 4 or 5 years for the next thing to be Breath of the Wild inspired.
Yeah.
And the problem is these publishers are chasing this next. Oh, that's the next big thing in NFTs, and like NFTs are like dead. Like all this stuff is dead in the water, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. It's like that's last year's trend, bro. Like you're on this last year's stuff, and game development takes so long now that the games that are in development now are probably some of them are in development for the next gen systems.
I heard that if a game starts pre-production today, it's for PS6.
Yeah,
like
it has to be a game that's already been in development for years to come out in the next couple of years. So, that is just really you're in a really weird place because if you're chasing a trend, you're going to be you're already late, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like you need to carve out and look what's been done. I thought Elden Ring did beautiful. They didn't try to chase this crazy. I mean, it was open world. They're doing their like open world of a Dark Souls game. But they were like, we're just going to carve our own path. We're going to like fix whatever and not going to chase all these like millions of trends. I mean, none of those games have chased a trend before, but yeah, it's just a weird. And the Suicide Squad is a victim of that. It's like people going, this is already too late. I don't know.
And the problem with the Suicide Squad game is that is not what anybody is looking for from Rocksteady at all. And so I disagree with what they're doing. They're delaying the game 6 months to a year. Here's the problem. It doesn't matter how long they delay it. The game is what it is.
Yeah.
Just put it out. It was supposed to come out in 2 months.
Came out.
Just put it out and then move on.
I forgot they delayed it.
It'll just sit like a fart for a year, and then it's still not going to be what people want it to be a year from now.
They delayed it because I forgot about that. They delayed it because of the bad reaction online to people seeing it. But it's like, yeah, like you said, it's going to be really hard to fix that stuff. Like I mean, some of that stuff's locked in. It takes years to develop this stuff. Like, it's already here, guys. Like, take the L. But
yeah, live service in that whole though, like talking about Suicide Squad in a sense, it has really taken over everything. Like every game that people are making, they'll put it out for money, and then they realize, what are we doing? We should make this free to play. And then they pivot that free play model, and then it closes down a year later. It's wild because if you go to Steam's top 15 right now, I think like 10 out of the 15 are free to play games. Like people would much rather play free to play games or games that have live service elements like Grand Theft Auto, which is never going to be free to play, but they have live service elements and they still make money hand over fist. It's mind blowing. It is insane how the model is completely flipped, and all these gaming companies are seeing the revenue that's coming in from those, and they're just jumping right in on that
Yeah.
every single time, every single one of them.
I feel like live service is the last raft before you have to get onto the ship, which is Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo. Well, probably Sony or Microsoft. Nintendo, I don't think is buying anybody really. So
No, Sony.
they're not really buying.
Sony has come out and said they're producing more live service games.
They are.
Like,
It's their whole.
they've already acknowledged that.
Yeah.
I mean the new Last of Us multiplayer thing is a new live service game.
But that's the issue.
It's
And
like you have to have a live service game now.
Dude,
Like, you have to have
Nintendo-
your own. Which I
Nintendo's
think
not going to
they've
do
worked
live
really hard.
service.
To be fair, I think they've worked hard on this Last of Us thing. It's been years in
Yeah.
development. So I think it's
Yeah.
going to be cool. But it's like I mean, do you have to have that to stay afloat now? Like that's kind of a really crazy market we're in, or
Yeah.
EA
Industry,
I think
but-
it was over 80% of the revenue EA made last year was on live service games.
Well, yeah. But they have been all in on that train for a decade.
But that's my point,
Plus,
though. So
yeah.
when you look at the idea, like, okay, yeah, and everyone else is going to go to that model. Nintendo is never going to do that. And Nintendo's like, they're at this point, they're on their like, they're the awkward little cousin we call once a quarter. Like they're off on their own little land. And like the next console we're gonna get is a 1080p Switch. It's not gonna be 4K. It'll be 1080p.
it
on the
will be,
freaking
yeah.
handheld,
It'll be 1080p.
Because that's just how they operate.
I
They
hope
do
it's not
give a crap.
900p.
Yeah, hey, dude,
I'm just
seriously though,
telling you.
like, oh, imagine the. But that's the thing that's so weird. Nintendo doesn't care, and that's kind of why I think I like them so much. Like compared to like everyone else, is because like Nintendo's going to do what Nintendo does best, which is put out good first party games. That's all they care about.
They're a toy company.
Yeah, that's all they are, and they've honestly stuck to that gun. They put out good hardware. They make money on their hardware. They don't lose money on their hardware like everyone else. Stuff like that. So, yeah, Suicide Squad. What's the other? There was another really popular live service game that was out for a year and just went under. It just closed up after a
Marvel's
year.
Adventures closed.
That one closed. There was Knockout City. The dodgeball one just closed last month.
Yeah.
What is that?
Um,
It's done. It's like not even
it-
on live.
Done, gone. The servers went down.
Because that was fun.
And
I used
then
to play a lot of it.
It would have been fun
Rumbleverse
if it was just
or
like a single
Multiverse
player thing.
went down. Multiverse went down.
Oh yeah,
uh,
multiverses.
Yeah, it went down too as well, and that was hilarious because everyone was like, "Multiverse can be the next big thing." Dude, it sucked. It went down right away.
I saw they
so-
only lost 99% of their player base. I literally just saw that on TikTok. It was like 99% of the players have dropped. It's only 99% of the people.
I mean, yeah, you still have the 1% that wants to live on. It's just wild to me. Like these people who take these free to play, as long as they stay free to play, I guess I don't care. But free to play really means you have to spend at least $40 to feel like you get the full experience, and then they close the game on you a year later. Yeah, it's
Gaming,
depressing.
man.
It's depressing.
Man, but in tomorrow, I mean, too bad we didn't do this tomorrow. Now that we know, but Nintendo always announces like the night before, "Hey, direct tomorrow, be there." Okay, I'll be there, Nintendo. It's never like a week ahead. It's like just get ready. So they're doing a 10-minute Zelda presentation tomorrow. So
My prediction: it'll be 10 minutes
Yeah,
of good news, 30 seconds of bad news. This game's getting delayed. Absolutely no chance this game's coming out
prediction
in
from
May.
I'm putting my money where my mouth is. It's
No
still coming out
chance.
in May.
Nope,
It will not be delayed.
Oh, I think it'll come out in May. I don't think they're delaying it.
it will not be.
If they
out
don't,
in
if
May.
they,
Put a clown picture tomorrow on whoever Square is wrong over their face.
I edit this.
I'm saying
so
right
I-
now, in this segment without a clown face on, it's not being delayed, and you're going to see the big moment of the big thing, the big twist of this game, and it'll be out in May.
yeah,
And Travis says opposite.
I just think
Travis
it's coming out in May.
Travis did do good on his case on the group chat. I did say it was possible that it would be some really cool stuff, and then they would delay it. But
I think it's going to be an awesome presentation, and I do think we're finally going to see. This is going to be the Mario throwing his hat in Odyssey equivalent
Yeah.
for this, but not a chance it's coming out in May.
How,
the hype,
how sad you guys going to be when this runs at 15 frames during the live event?
the hype.
I mean,
is
it was
literally
already kind of
not-
probably chugging along, but
We'll see.
we'll see what we see.
Yeah, it's rough.
I'll tell
It
you
is
what you.
it is.
I'll tell you what you're going to get on May 12th or whatever. You're going to get Oracle of Ages and Seasons on the Switch console, the Switch eShop,
That's your
Hey,
Zelda game.
to hold you
that's the
over.
thing. In order to apologize for our delay, we are releasing The Legend of Zelda Oracle.
Here is my. Well, I think we're getting
I
that Zelda
promise.
OLED. They're gonna show that Zelda OLED tomorrow, and here is why I don't think it's getting delayed. They announced a reprint of the Majora's Mask Mimo and the Twilight
Oh
Princess
yeah,
Mimo.
but that doesn't. I don't know if that really.
And guess what the date is? The date is May 12th, the same freaking day as not Twilight Princess, the Tears of the Kingdom. So why would they do that so close?
I would say, here's what I would say is Nintendo probably wouldn't force a game out the door that's not ready because some action figures are ready.
Hey, so we lost half of the podcast at this point, right here. We lost Jacob in the process.
Timely enough, right in the middle of our debate about what would happen with Zelda. And you can tell it's a different time of day because that window above me is like shining down on my head, but
so
there's nothing I can do.
One day later, and we have seen the new Zelda. 10 minutes of it.
We did.
So we're actually adding on. It's like DLC, kind of what this game looks to be to Breath of the Wild is DLC. We're getting DLC for the podcast right here. It only took the loss of Jacob and the loss of half the podcast. So let's get straight into it.
Well, yeah, but let me say something, Zach.
Yeah.
It would appear you were right. See, I can admit when I was wrong. It would appear you were right. Now, appearances can be deceiving. There's still time for a delay. But
okay, so he's still holding on. There could
be a
delay.
If it comes out, I will say you were right, and I will say for now you're probably going to end up being right. The game's coming out.
Okay, so we got that clear out of the way. What did you think of we got to see 10 minutes. Miyamoto himself, he definitely was the one with the controller playing on there on the stream.
Is it Anuma? Is it Miyamoto?
Oh, was it Anuma? It wasn't Miyamoto?
Yeah, it was I don't know. That the guy with the glasses.
I forgot who was playing because you only get to see it for a second, then you get to see the whole game.
Yeah,
but
we
got to see a demonstration of this fusion stuff. This fusion. We were talking even before this got cut off that there was some type of other stuff to this game, and that's what they look like they're teasing out right here. And we got to see them kind of zoom up into the sky onto
Sky Islands.
Which, if you know me, I don't like Skyward Sword, and this is too give me PTSD on Skyward Sword. There's too much Skyward Swordness here. However, you can now fuse. He got a stick, and they fused it with a rock.
Yeah.
And they also fused like their arrows with like ice and having an eyeball so it can zoom in. So all these different abilities you can do by fusing different things. And I think that's going to be very crazier than what you see in the video, because between like the ice and all the stuff you can freeze and the bombs and the different stuff you had in Breath of the Wild, which honestly wasn't a ton. They just worked on those elements of like wind and pushing things and fire and setting things on fire. But there was endless possibilities with those like different elements in the game of Breath of the Wild. So when you're like fusing stuff and you're putting the sticks and creating these different weapons, I was like, things are going to get nuts very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think you even mentioned in our group chat, and I agree, is like, you can see where all that development time went into, because like,
oh my gosh,
you're opening up the possibility for 8 jillion things to happen now.
Well, yeah, because when they first started fusing things, it was like a rock to a stick or a branch. Because he kept saying, "Oh, pick up that branch, you're gonna want it," and I was like, "Where are they going with this? Like, nobody wants a branch." But yeah, like when they fused that eyeball to that arrow, and it was like auto aim on the arrow, I was like, okay, they went like next level. They probably threw out all the different items and weapons and said, how would this interact with this? Yeah. I'm sure they had archetypes, but like he took a giant long stick and attached it to a giant long like fork you would like do the pitchfork, and like had a gigantic long pitchfork like. Yeah. And that looked like a unique animation with unique reach. I can't even fathom how much time went into that fuse mechanic. I think that was the star of the show. And then the putting together the boat, I think it's really cool. I almost was getting Death Stranding vibes. Like in the original Breath of the Wild, if you came up on a river and you needed to cross it, you would do that ice thing. Either you'd find something tall and fly over, or you would do that ice thing and you would kind of jump across.
Yeah.
Which I saw people were debating. There's not clarity. Some people think the old tools are not in this one.
Mm.
Like that ice stuff might not be in this. And the stasis, I'm not sure if we have confirmation on that. But regardless,
Which that could make sense because if you think back on like I only have like Majora's Mask and Ocarina to think back on, you didn't have those old abilities and weapons and items were not in present in the other one. Now this looks just I think people just and that was the same engine Ocarina and Majora's like they look very similar, but he lost all those like abilities. So I
Yeah.
think I don't think those might not be in this. I think
well,
those will be gone.
you may not need some of them because the one was the magnet and it was only usable on metal. Now you have. I was like, what is this? This is something we had before. It's called God Hand or something, or Ultra Hand, and he was
Yeah.
picking up anything with that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
he
the
was.
magnet thing, but now you could pick up wood or anything. So I will say I like the idea of you can build a boat to cross this thing. I was thinking of Death Stranding, like doing things to get across different parts of the environment. How often am I going to want to stop and build a boat from scratch? Like it'll be interesting, like how
well,
that.
people that didn't play nuts and bolts are about to get some nuts and bolts.
Yeah,
they might
I'm
run into the same
into it.
issue.
I'm into it. I think that's what I wrote in my notes was that Fuse was kind of the star of the show. That was the aha moment for me of okay, that's what they're doing. Recall looked kind of cool too, where you basically rewind where an item was. I bet they will go crazy with that in some puzzles where you need to rewind things through a puzzle environment. Talos Principle had a mechanic like that, and if they do some things like that, I think that would be cool. It seems like the Sky Islands are going to be the unique visual environment. I think they look cool, and I like how it seems like it's not just like a little island, like there's hills and like things on them. I'm almost getting the vibe that those are going to be the shrines this time.
They might be.
Like
Yeah,
you'll go up to
possibly.
these sky islands, and there may be puzzles or shrine-like things up there. And I also thought they were calling them constructs. They were like the robots that like had weapons. They almost looked like the old Guardians, but they were more like walking bipedal kind of robots.
Yeah.
I have a feeling like those are going to be kind of a new main world enemy, at least on those Sky Islands. And I liked how they had different combinations of weapons. So I thought that stuff looked cool.
Yeah. We got some. They built some vehicles.
Yeah.
So they picked up like this fan, put on the fan on there, went across the water, created this kind of like hot air balloon type deal as well.
It
Again,
looks fun.
remind me of nuts and bolts. But we'll see. I mean, like I think they saw the creativity of Breath of the Wild and said, "Oh, well, if people like doing that and like that was a fun aspect of the game, let's let them go a little bit more nuts." So
Can we talk about the elephants in the room?
the resolution, maybe.
Well, we could talk about that. The one that stuck out to me, and I wrote it in our chat, was when this booted up and he was running around like in the field, and like immediately it's the piano,
Same music. Yeah.
it's the same open world music. I
Yeah.
love it from that game, but I had 150 hours of it 6 years ago. And then he went over by like that little, those little ranches. It was the same model. It was this people were standing in the same places. It was the same like music. And I just
that's why it's weird, the expectation. That's why I call it almost DLC plus.
Yeah,
People might try to take a long pitchfork to me, but it kind of is. I mean, like they're using that same thing. Whereas, like if you look back at, I know this is the only comparison we really have, but like if you look back at Ocarina of Majora's, which was the most similar thing we can look back to, at least that was a different land, like a terminal.
Yeah,
like,
it was a new zone.
different experience. Whereas this is like they're drawing stuff on top of the old land, like they're coloring in different things. And it's like, well, that's why it's almost DLC plus, and that's why I think they kind of got stuck. It seems like a Mario Galaxy 2 situation where Mario Galaxy 2 was supposed to be DLC basically for Galaxy 1, and they made it its own game. I think that came into the same thing here where they just kept having all these different ideals, stuff that we might have not seen yet, too. That's the other thing. Keep an open mind about. But I think they did the same thing where they just kept adding, and they're like, well, this is like, we want to charge $70 for it.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
get that, but the changing the music. So the music in Breath of the Wild fit not just the game, but it fit the atmosphere and what that game
Mhm.
represented. I could tell very distinctly what Breath of the Wild represented to the Zelda franchise. I'm not getting that with this. Like, and they're using the same open air music this time, and it's ringing hollow for me. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. It's pleasant music, but that's the easiest thing. Even if you're going to use the same zone, a little different, doing an original score. I know there will be original music in this game, but if they just play like the same battle themes and the same calm, like walking around theme and the same ranch theme and the same dungeon theme, I'm going to be really disappointed because in a new
Yeah.
Zelda title, new music is like bare minimum. This is like, hey, Halo game, you got to have matchmaking and like leaderboards. Like I don't understand what the vibe is.
And the only thing I can hold out for is my other theory that there is a dark world to this,
Yeah.
because in the very first trailer we saw very dark and disturbing kind of like monsters and stuff that was going on. So I'm wondering if, like, at nighttime. Well, and also I think in that trailer, like the blood moon rises and all this stuff. Like, I'm wondering if stuff gets fricked up again. Like the whole world's gonna get like kind of upside down or something. So the
Yeah.
music might be kind of Twilight Princessy. I think is probably might happen there. It might sound all that warped kind of sounding there. So we'll see.
We'll see.
But I've already pre-ordered it, and of course I'm going to play every Zelda that comes out. They come out every 7 year, 8 year. You know, I mean, it takes
Yeah.
a while for a new Zelda to come out, so it's like
It,
I'm
it's
always open.
just
And again, I was really just not excited at all prior to Breath of the Wild at all.
yeah.
I just nothing really shocked me. Um, I wasn't getting it yet, and then when I played it, I went, oh yeah, it's one of the best games ever made. But
Yeah, I
I don't
felt the
know if I'll
same
have
way.
that level
Yeah.
of excitement. I don't think this will shock us as much, but I do believe, I'm holding out hope that it's like, you know, these don't come around often. I trust them with what they're doing, so we'll see once we play it. So
Yeah, I'm with you. It looks fun, and I'm really not. I'm not in a negative space. If you had told me a year ago this is how I'd be feeling like a month out, I would have been kind of surprised. But at the end of the day, it's a video game. It looks like a well-made video game, and I'm going in with just low expectations. I'm going in with Breath of the Wild 1.5 expectations, which is probably top 3 game of all time to me. So,
yeah,
I mean, like we got bigger problems probably than if it's going to be good or not. I will be interested in the reviews. If the reviews start coming out and it's tens and people are like, no, you haven't seen anything yet, I'll start getting really excited.
yeah,
It will be interesting how this one reviews because
yeah.
Breath of the Wild was unanimous 10 out of 10s, but then I felt like there was this counterculture like after the critics got through it of people saying, yeah, but it didn't really hit these Zelda hallmarks that I miss. And that wasn't really in the reviews, but that has really kind of marinated over time to where I talk to people, it's kind of 50-50. Like most people that play Breath of the Wild at least liked it, but most of them I talk to, they either love it and it's their favorite one, or they're kind of mixed on it and it's middle of the pack or low to them. So it'll be interesting if this one, I mean, they always get these games review so well, but
Yeah.
I'll be interested
and I
in
think that is interesting because there was a quote the other day from the creator of Final Fantasy, and he was like, I want to stop calling these like JRPGs from now on.
Yeah.
And like almost like pushing, and like some of these games have been pushing more in an action direction than in the past. Like there's no turn-based. There's like, it's kind of excuse me, the games are transforming with time, and I like that. Whereas like if you look at Pokemon, we're just slamming our heads against the desk because it's like this is not transforming and moving. And if you're a fan of that, awesome, like you're into that. But if you look at the very first I'm a huge fan of Pokemon. I got it freaking on my wall over here, all these Pokemon cards. But like that first game to the most recent game, it's the same.
It's the same game.
You know what I mean? That's the quiet part out loud. It's the same. It's the same freaking game. If you look at the first Zelda versus this, it's that realized. It's like we couldn't have that technology to make this open and you're exploring stuff as much. Like now we're able to expand on that and have these new systems that were never freaking possible on the
Yeah.
NES. But why are we still doing that with like Pokemon? And like I understand that people like, oh, I want this Zelda, or they're looking back, oh, I want a new Ocarina of Time, and it's like I don't think that's coming back. Like I don't think those are like there.
Nah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get stuff like the freaking. I do think they scratching it still with that. I will say, and throw a bone in that Link's Awakening when they remade that. That is a classic Zelda. You get your classic dungeon and stuff. So maybe you'll see remakes and stuff, but I'm happy that, they're pushing the envelope and they're making these wacky, like Breath of the Wild is so out there and so, innovative and what it's trying to accomplish. And it's like, I want you to keep, and it's always been a series. Actually, I think they've always been kind of trolly with the series because even look at like Wind Waker.
Yeah.
I was alive for that to know how like pissed people were at the cell shading.
I was very
And-
I was young, but I was like, this isn't Ocarina of Time. This isn't what I wanted. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and they've always kind of pushed that. So I hope that I was laughing too online, reading people's like breakable weapons are still in. I'm out. Like they were pissed.
I was relieved to
like,
see that because I was worried they'd,
Yeah, I'm glad they have breakable weapons. It's like it forces you to almost survival based. I got to pick up what I have, you know. But again, I get that people are like, but I like this system of Zelda more. I think you're still getting your, a bone thrown to you every once in a while in a remake.
And you got so many of them to pick from. By God, just go.
It's time to move on.
Turn on any Nintendo console. You have 3 or 4 options for that. Like, yeah, I'm with you.
So,
well, I think I'm just trying to temper because there is just one little, and then this is the last thing I'll say. There's one little part of me when I played Elden Ring, which I loved. It scratched the same Breath of the Wild world building, exploring. It was a little different, but it scratched the same itch for me. There was a little part of me when I played that was like, uh-oh, like, has this scratched the itch that now this next Zelda game is going to have trouble? But I think that fuse mechanic, like, I think that hey, these are people that did Breath of the Wild 1. They're really smart guys and girls, so I'm sure it'll be good. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
And that resolution might be emulating it. I don't know because that was.
Hey, now that I got a Steam Deck, I very well. Yeah, that's a good transition. Actually, I got a Steam Deck, and I really like it.
Nice.
I love it.
I got the OLED Zelda pre-ordered.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I got a Steam Deck because my Switch OLED was stolen, or I don't know what happened to it. It was raptured. I'm the leftovers, and my Switch and my Mario Kart and my Smash Brothers.
You basically upgraded.
And my Donkey Kong. Yeah. Well, it got disappeared like a year ago. It was last March actually, but I got a Steam Deck. I have had an eye on one for a little bit, but I kind of always kept going back to this idea that I got a PC, I got a Switch. This is kind of a middle ground that I don't need. Like if I want to play handheld, I'll play handheld. If I want to play a computer game, I'll play a computer game. But I just kept seeing things about it, and it was on sale last week, and that's when I bought it. And so I really sat down. I was like, let me actually look into, like, I did some research. What does this thing do? What does it kind of offer that what I don't have now? And when I really dug into it and I was reading people online, I realized it has such a huge user base that is rapidly growing, and the community around it, they are building, all sorts of, customer or controller input, like default stuff, all these things to where, and plugins and all these things, that it is like almost a dream UI now. Like it is the Steam UI on this deck is my favorite UI. Like I log in, all my games installed are right here. I can get to my full library. I can press on anything and immediately I have a plugin that, I don't like the way that artwork looks, the whatever, like Fall Guys changed it to where it's some, freaking random thing from a show that looks stupid. Oh, press a button, community posters, boom, I changed the artwork in like 1 second, and it syncs to all of my computer and everything. Like I have plugins for like how long to beat. When I pull up a game, it shows me how long to beat the main story, how long to do the side stuff. I have, it tells you how it'll run on the deck, but I have found every single game I've tried, there's verified, semi-verified, non-verified, and confirmed doesn't work, quote unquote. I've tried all four, and I've gotten all four to work every time. Not had to download a single thing. Don't have to go into the back end. Like nothing. Like it's so ridiculously easy to use. I love the interface. It does double as a Linux desktop if you want. So I am having an absolute blast, and I haven't even started doing an emulation or anything. The main reason I got it though was I have a pretty big Steam backlog. If you're a fan of the channel, you've seen the old show Jacob and I had called Backlog Bros. I have probably 60, 70 games on Steam that I just own from sales and stuff that I've never played. And so I have been playing some of those. So I absolutely love it. And you got a retro handheld recently, didn't you?
RetroArch, yeah.
Retro
Or not a RetroArch, Analog Pocket. I was
Analog
thinking of
Pocket.
the emulation. Yeah.
And I had looked at those, and I had done a lot of research, and I really like the emulation stuff that you can do on Steam Deck. But I was looking at one of those, and I feel like this is kind of the emulation device for me. It's right there with all my PC stuff. So I'm excited. I'm really, really liking it. And I don't know. I kept saying I don't think I'll play Zelda on computer. It will be hard for me to not just maybe play it on this Steam Deck because I love using it. We'll see when it gets here.
Yeah.
What I end up doing. But have you looked into these at all? I know you played around with the one when we had it over at your house.
So Alex brought his around and he was evangelizing to everybody, and I think got everybody on board with that. It's very cool. And I think if you're traveling and stuff, it's like a dream device to have all of these games from Steam on it and emulation. It is a dream device. For me, I just can't justify it because I have my computer hooked over to. I love sitting on the couch and just playing.
Yeah.
On my big screen TV here in the basement. So for me, all that stuff is linked up. My PC already is going to that. But if I didn't have that, that's what I would use.
Yeah.
Even at my old house, I'd probably do something like this. I was having problems with my old TV at the last house, and I would have hooked up a Steam Deck and had that going and gone over there because I think that's a really easy way to plug and play and get all of it working.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the UI stuff, the support and stuff is great. Yeah, it's a crazy cool device.
Well, and there's something to be said for like some of these older PC games. You boot them up on your like new monitors, and they're just old. Like there's like Oblivion, it's just old. But yeah. I installed Oblivion, for instance, on my Steam Deck because I have a save file that's like 10 hours in, and I stopped playing it on PC because it was like, I mean, I could sit here and play a million different things. I don't want to sit at my desk and play Oblivion right now. But I got it running. I got it up. It took me 1 second. I just downloaded a community thing. It's got gyro aim and everything. And it's given that game like new life to me. Like I was sitting last night on the couch and I got infected with like vampirism, and I was trying to find the person that could tell me where the person was, and I found him, and then they told me to go get these gems, and I was going to these caves, and like I played for like 3 hours last night, way too late, and I was immersed in Oblivion, which is a freaking very old game, but on that 900p monitor, because it's an old game, it can run it at 1080p, and then it downscales it to 900p, and it's like buttery smooth 60 frames with gyro. Like it's given this old game new life, and like that is a cool example. Another one was I played Half-Life Last Coast. It's like a developer little demo game, and I was kind of unsure if I wanted to really do shooters on the Steam Deck because I play everything mouse and keyboard now. But I have Half-Life 2 Episode 2 on my backlog. I never played that one. So I was like, well, why don't I just download Lost Coast? I'll demo this out and see if I like it. And if I do, maybe I'll play Episode 2. And it really sold me on that. It played great. It looked great. It had like HDR and stuff on it and gyro, and it's really cool. I really like that. And then I got into a couple smaller indie games. I played The Binding of Isaac. Have you ever seen this game? Have you ever played this before?
I had friends at my last job that were really I think they still play it. I still see them pop up They're
Yeah.
playing Binding of Isaac and stuff. So
I had always
it's like a
heard about it.
roguelike with a baby
Yeah, basically,
and a
so
baby
it's
guy.
it's the guy that made Super Meat Boy. So it's that
Mhm.
art style and that humor, like a little crass. But basically, the game starts and there's this little baby and his mom, and it's like a little like narrated animated
Yeah.
thing, and it's a flash game. It's like an old flash game. So it looks like hand drawn art like you would see on like addictinggames.com or something, but it is a very deep game. And basically, like, the little plot is that your mom, God told her to, it's like a commentary on the Isaac story in the Bible where the guy's going to kill his son. Well, it's your
Yeah.
mom, and God tells her to kill you. So she tries to kill you, and you jump in the basement, and you're trying to move up from the basement back up to kill your mom, basically. But like,
Nice.
it's like a very kind of like a lot of like the tools and like the items are like religious and all this different stuff. It's very fun, very funny. I was going to recommend it to you because you've never found a game that you like for roguelike type stuff. This one is snappy. It's like
This is
Super
another
Meat Boy.
roguelike I'm getting recommended.
It's Super Meat Boy. It's quick. To finish a run takes 25 minutes probably. I haven't completed one, but I've gotten close to the end. So it's quick, and you're unlocking items, and it's cool. But that game, the one I own, is the Flash one, like the old one. The other one is Rebirth, which is like a remake, and it's pixel art. I don't have that one, but Binding of Isaac, the original on the computer, it looks like crap. But on the Steam Deck, it's perfect. It's just plug and play. I've been playing the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which I'm not I don't know. Are you much of a fighting game person? We were playing Street
No.
Fighter the other night.
Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers, yeah.
It's as close as I get.
Well,
I've always wanted to try Tekken because Tekken, I loved playing that demo and
Yeah.
renting those games back in the day. I liked playing Tekken a lot.
That's the one where you can punch with right arm, left arm, right
yeah,
kick,
I
left
guess
kick.
so. It's been so long, but that one I was pretty into. But
Yeah. I've been on this lifelong little. I don't know if in games there's like main quests, side quests, and then there's what's like below the side quests, like the
Fetch Quest.
fetch quests, or like like little thing you can do, like you get the guy the flowers or whatever. I have wanted to find a fighting game that I really can get good at and like playing.
It's the biggest barrier to entry in gaming.
It is.
Versus
is.
anything else. Anything, even Dark Souls, that's like a meta you have to figure out and how that game plays.
Yeah.
But for a fighting game, it's like, okay, I have to literally memorize combos.
And it's impossible to do.
And there
in
is a meta to that, and like how to read different attack patterns and all that stuff. But I think that is the barrier. Is like, oh, I have to remember left, right, back, and
Yeah. And I owned Soul Calibur 2 back in the day on Xbox. I played Mortal Kombat with my brother and sister, but we were just screwing around. But I've wanted to get one. I've wanted to get into one. I've tried a couple times with different games. But I thought, hey, this is, if nothing else, I can buy this collection. It's got all the Street Fighter 1, 2, 3, Alpha, all of those editions in one package. And in my mind, it was like, at the very least, this is a great way to like run through and learn about that series. And I was actually surprised. Not only can you do that, but there's a museum mode where they have hand-drawn, like from every single game, like the design docs, like the hand-drawn, like this is how we want the controls to work. Here's like character art for all the characters with it's the art drawings with the note scans of the notebooks, and you can zoom in, and it is I'd almost say like on the level of like Astro's Playroom with like its love for Street Fighter with the museum mode, and you can go in and they've got full, like, it may just be straight from Wikipedia, I don't know, but they have full like development history of all like 20 whatever of these games and how characters came up and when they started and how they changed. So my buddy Greg came over and he had dabbled a little bit in Street Fighter. I had a couple Steam controllers, so we booted that up and we started with Street Fighter 1 and just played a match in every single one of the games. And my big takeaway has been Street Fighter 1 sucks. That game, it was fine for its time.
Alpha.
It's
alpha.
yeah, it is not. I'm
Beta.
sure it was good for its time. And Street Fighter 2, I think, is probably like the melee of those. Like, if you're not an OG, don't even frick with it because it's fun, but it's so kind of pixely and clunky. And but alpha, the 3 alpha games, and then the three games, those are extremely fun. I've been playing those, and I've actually been going into training mode and like using a couple characters and trying to get that feel down. And when you start to get that feel, it's more fun. It's a lot more fun. It's just like trying to pick it up with friends when you've never played. You can't really, you might learn one move and just spam it. But it is, I'm starting to get the appeal of learning a person's move set. And on
Do you think
third,
you're going to be ready for 6?
well, that's what I was going to say is this was kind of like my dip the toe in the water because it was like $9 on sale.
Yeah.
This was my dip the toe in the water. I'm intrigued by 6. I'm going to wait and see. With these games, you never know how bad they go with all the DLC and all this stuff.
You got to really wait on these.
I think Street Fighter 5 was kind of notorious with that.
Yeah.
And Capcom makes Street Fighter, right?
Yes.
So I like Monster Hunter and I like Resident Evil, so I'm in a lot of the stuff Capcom's been up to. So I think it looks fun. I think that Street Fighter 6 has a mode where we can all be in a lobby, like our little avatars walking around, and then they have arcade machines, and you can go up next to 2 friends of yours, and their avatars are standing at the machine, and on the screen is their game, and you can like walk around a tournament and like spectate different games, or I don't want to watch this game anymore, walk away and it'll zoom back from your screen and you can walk and go watch another game. And I thought that like if you had a group of friends and you were all playing, that could be cool, like a little virtual walking around the arcade together and watching games.
Yeah.
But I don't know if any of our friends will play this game. And Alex is the biggest Street Fighter guy in the world, and he is like maybe very against
Not
this
gonna
game
get it,
from what I saw. So I don't know. Fun game. All that being said, there is one game on the Steam Deck I played that I want to talk about. And it is a game you probably have never heard of it, called Deserted: The Story of Peter.
Can we just say, because we can't relive this moment, what we lost the recording was me and Jacob dying laughing because I was realizing, because you were starting to explain it. You started saying that Deserted: The Story of Peter, and none of us, of course, have heard of it. And you said it has 50 people on the Steam community that have played it. It's no longer on Steam. You kept talking how underground it is.
There's 12 discussion topics on the Steam forum. The store page is removed. We investigated last night. There is a Facebook group with probably 50 people that have liked it.
But
Not,
I just
there
crack
hasn't.
up that you said it was an indie game, and I was like, I can't think of any more indie than like 12 people talking about it on the internet, and you had to like find the one post to fix. Like, get past the part you were stuck on.
Well, and it's just one of those things.
Deserted: The Story of Peter.
Deserted: The Story of Peter. Well, I get my Steam Deck and I log in.
We're the only podcast that is talking about this game.
Well, and I really like. I get my Steam Deck. I go to my library and I'm flipping through it, and there are probably 6 to 7 games I own that are I don't even know. I don't even know because I don't like go searching the deep web of Steam for things. But like I own a couple that are pretty off the grid, and I must have paid $5 for it. But this is one of them, and I installed it. I was like, if I don't play it now, I'm never gonna play it. I was able to glean that it was about an hour and a half. Like the little bit of like reading, like I could read people who I couldn't go to the Steam page for it, but I could find the person and then go to their profile, and they said they liked it in the
Found
comments.
An old newspaper clipping scan.
It was seriously, it was like ridiculous. So I installed this game, and what this game is, you know what RPG Maker is, right? Yeah. So it's basically like
studio.
it's like a game you can buy on Steam, but when you boot it up, it's like Dreams, but if you're trying to make a JRPG, and that's pretty much what you can do, right? So this game used RPG Maker engine, but it's not a JRPG. It is a game about a man named Peter who works in a call center, and the game starts and he wakes up and he's late for work, and so you get dressed and you press A on the dresser, you get dressed and you leave and you go to your call center job, and your manager calls you into his office and he says, basically, you don't remember yesterday? And Peter's like, no. And he's like, you had a mental breakdown. And this game is written, it is made by, I think, one person. It's a little bit of a Tommy Wiseau situation. So some of the translation and the wording is awkward, but like, basically your boss says you're fired if you don't go to the psychiatrist today. Like, basically is what happens. And your guy is like, okay, I'll go. And so the way this game works is you go to the psychiatrist. There's 3 days for 3 chapters. And the first day, the psychiatrist is like, I want you to tell me about a day that you remember everything that happened from when you woke up to when you went to bed. And so then you kind of go through this backstory and when he's in school and you're avoiding the teachers and there's this girl that he likes and there's a whole little plot. And then they're like, tell me about the worst. You're a soldier. Tell me about the worst thing that ever happened in the war. And it is like you literally go to war. And the way it works is, imagine these little Final Fantasy characters. There's no like battle screen. Your 2 buddies, like your commanding officers, like you need to go take that base. And your 2 little buddies get into like they're just shooting guns indefinitely with these other guys, and you have to kind of walk around and stab these guys in the back. So you're walking around, and these guys have like full like turbans, like and like AK-47s, like you're in like I don't even know, you're fighting ISIS, and so you're running around and you're stabbing these guys, and then you go down in the basement, and then you meet their leader down there, and a fire breaks out, and that's when that memory ends. And then the third one, you don't ever make it to the psychiatrist because in this game, the reason you're seeing the psychiatrist, the reason he's having a mental breakdown is there's a man with a hood around his face chasing you in your dreams. And then you start seeing him in real life. And this man kidnaps you and kidnaps your girlfriend that you're getting reconnected with. And you find out that the game is called Deserted because your buddy in the fire, you told him to go get something out of this thing, and the fire broke out, and you deserted him in the fire.
Oh, that's the story of Peter.
And he burned up, but he didn't die. And so he has you in a cage and your girlfriend in a cage. And this game, the way it's set up is everybody thinks you're crazy because you're saying you see this guy and you're a psychiatrist, you've ditched her, your boss is going to fire you because you've ditched her, but you're kidnapped, there's nothing you can do. You have a choice at the end to kill your friend, his name's Sal, or to try to make peace with him. I picked to try to make peace with him, and it doesn't even give you a second. He blows your brains out, and then he shoots your girlfriend and puts the gun in your hand and walks away. And then the post like epilogue scene is the cop is coming to tell your psychiatrist, yeah, he went on a rampage. We think he killed this girl. And she's like, I can confirm he did it. He was telling me crazy things too. It was all in his head. And that's Deserted, the story of Peter.
I love 2 things about this. One, you can't even really recommend this game because no one can play it.
No one can play it.
You just told this experience. And part 2 is if there's ever like somebody trying to archive these games, you're going to be kind of like the only reference about what happened with this video game.
Yeah, and I would say, and I'm happy to be that reference, I would say it was a good game. It was fun. It was an hour and a half. I had a fun time playing it on the couch. My wife was playing Power Wash Simulator or something, and I was like narrating it to her because it was all little, there was a puzzle where they give you a code, and then you go to meet with this decryptor guy, and he basically tells you, this is basically like, this is too hard for me. What do you think? He's the decryptor. I don't know. Like I looked around the room. There's nowhere to go in the game.
What do you think about
and
this?
I digged around in the Steam forums and I found a post where somebody was like, what do you do? And somebody just gave me the answer. It was like letters and numbers, and you have to make it into St. Petersburg Street or whatever, St. Peter Street. I was like, thank God. Like, I felt like I was relying on every little scrap of internet information.
And it says, like, this many people are currently playing, like, Counter-Strike or whatever. That would just show one.
Yeah, one. It was me. It was me. But if you made that game, I liked it. It was fun.
If you made that, if you want to play it, too bad, you can't.
So sad. But you played a couple games, not on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I played and streamed with Pierce, and then one time I did a solo run of Atomic Heart. This game finally came out. It looked like a mess from the beginning. It looked like I couldn't describe it to people. It just looks like a 1 second you're fighting robots, 1 second you're like swimming in like fluid in the water that's floating up in the sky. You're shooting stuff from your hands like BioShock, and this game is essentially it is a BioShock clone with enough that is so off the walls bonkers that it is its own thing. I wouldn't say it's a copy paste clone, but it scratches that itch definitely. If you like BioShock games, absolutely check this game out. There's a lot of jank to it. I actually had to turn the difficulty down. I never usually do this. I always keep it normal. I had to go down to easy because there's like a dodging mechanic. Like these robots come at you. That's like the main enemy as far as I am in the game right now. And they'll attack you, and like a ring pops up, and you gotta block, you gotta dodge. It's almost like Dark Souls in a way, but the systems don't feel good to play all the time. So I moved down to easy, and I'm just kind of like bearing through it at certain parts. But the presentation and the graphics gave me that same feeling as playing the original BioShock and seeing Rapture for the first time. And you're coming down that elevator, and you see all that floating city and all that stuff, and it's like jaw dropping. You get that same stuff, and when I streamed alone, I wasn't talking for a little bit, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm like kind of like, jaw dropped from like what I'm seeing right now. Just the art and everything that's in it. I cannot even describe to you with words what
are
you see in this.
What are they using that's setting this apart so much visually? Is it
I don't know. It just looks gorgeous at certain parts, and other parts it just looks like a BioShock regular game. It plays like a PS3 or 360 game at parts, and then other times it feels pretty modern. It's not consistent. Go in when you are just wanting to be just surprised. When you're just they also have the humor for the game is weird. 1 second it's very funny, 1 second it just doesn't hit. It's just so vulgar, it's so weird. And then you'll like the vending machine is so sexually explicit that you have to buy the weapons and stuff from. It like wants to have sex with you or something. This vending machine, but it's so sexually explicit. It's very funny. So I don't know how it's gonna hit with different people. This is a weird game. And something else I'll talk about movies later. And I don't almost compare it to that. It's like you're just on a ride. Like it's just. Like I said, there's like floating goo, and you jump up and you can swim through this floating goo. You fight these AI robots that are now like alive. They're taking over the city. That's kind of the big story. Is this AI? These robots take over the city. It's made by a Russian development studio, but at the very beginning, it's very anti-Soviet Union. Like talking about if the Soviet Union never lost, but like they trash the Soviet Union, but it's made in Russia, which doesn't like that stuff.
What is
I don't know.
What does it have like the physics or like sandboxy type stuff in terms of multiple ways to get in places and solve things? Does it have that part of like BioShock or System Shock?
It allows you to do different, like, so you can have the different powers like the shock and the freeze and stuff, and they let I've only scratched the surface, I guess, of those systems so far. But I have like an axe, I have this shock thing, and I have the like a shotgun and whatever else. But like I said, it's kind of janky. You can get some stuff to work, but they were very they swung for the fences with this game.
They're cool.
Very ambitious, and they fall on their face a lot. But the ambition and what they were trying to do at certain parts and trying to make these different things work, yeah, you have to hand it to them. And it's like, that's why I would recommend this game. I mean, it's on Game Pass. It's freaking, if you have Game Pass, check it out. I don't know if I'd drop a full 60 on it, other than that. But for how weird this game is and for the development studio that made this, it's just such a wacko game. I can compare it to BioShock, but it's like a janky, weird BioShock that will shock you.
Shock.
It's just shock.
Hey, my other question,
weird.
because no one has cleared this up, and I haven't had a chance really to ask you, what is the game structure, like scenario? Like, is this interconnected kind of like hub world? Is this linear level based? Is this open world?
It's
Like,
linear, at least where I'm at. Pierce is a little bit further than me, and he said that because I'm at a part that's kind of obnoxious. It's like collect these 6 capsules and take them to this thing, and I'm like, hey, does this change? Otherwise, I'm out. And he said that part sucks. He says after that, it really opens up. Like you get to do a lot of cool stuff. So I'm gonna stick with it because of that, and
I want
because I
to
don't know when I'm getting into it.
okay, I'll check it out. I want to support games like this and play this because the middle class of games has
Yeah,
not gotten a lot. I feel like
the C
stuff like
tier,
this, the C
double
tier,
A is yeah,
this used to get stuff like this a lot, and now it's like we get stuff like this and people don't know what to do with it. Like
yeah.
on the OG
And at
Xbox
the
and
same time,
PS2,
it almost is a triple A. I would say it's a triple A that has like a two-faced triple A. Like one side's just burnt, and then the other is like you're just like, what is this? It's just you know how like you get pizza sometimes for a restaurant and the bottom half's not really baked on the bottom, but the top has
yeah,
the great toppings and stuff, but the other top is kind of a little bit needed like 5 more minutes in the oven. That's kind of what this game is. It's
that's
like,
rough,
oh, amazing textures and stuff on the top, and you're like, what's? Oh, they didn't cook it really well on the bottom.
man.
I'd
Interesting.
compare it to that. It's just a weird. It's not even. I wouldn't even say double A. I'd really say it's like a two-face, like double A and a triple A, and it's. I've never
2.5A.
played anything like it, and that's all I can do to sell people on it is check it out if you want a wacky time.
Well, now I guess the last question, because I had a couple Game Pass games. You for a while didn't have Game Pass. Now you have it now, and you're playing this. I know you played Immortality.
Yeah.
How are you liking that service and that ability to just check in on some of these weird games,
So yeah,
and it's not like no strings
I
attached?
don't. It reminds me of like getting to go back to Blockbuster, and I'm just renting these games. Like I would never pay full price for, and I would say almost all the games I've played on there.
Yeah,
So they're perfect for the service. They're really scratching that itch for that way I used to, consume those types of games. I get it. I don't get a whole year. I just get a month at a time, and then I cancel it immediately when I get the year the month. And I'll check out like Atomic Heart. I'll beat that and stuff, and then I won't have the service for a
yeah,
couple months
yeah. That's
unless
probably
there's
the
something
best
else
way
that
to
comes
do
out.
it. Yeah,
So that's how I'm doing. I'm paying $10 at a time. There was a couple times I got the dollar. They like gave me it for $1. Like, oh, get it for $1, and we'll just automatically resubscribe you if you don't cancel. So I got the dollar, canceled immediately, and then I canceled for like 5 months, and that dollar thing was back, and got it again. And then I just saw something today. They said that deal at
finally
all
killed
is
it.
gone. It's
Yeah,
completely gone forever. Because that's what I was doing for a while. I was getting it for
yeah,
$1, 4 months. Oh, I'm ready to play again. Oh, I can get it for $1. Okay,
yeah,
got it again. So
yeah. And with inflation, $10 is pretty equivalent to what it might be to rent a game for a couple nights. So
yeah,
it's actually
so
pretty
you get
accurate.
30-day rental basically. So
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I played a game on Game Pass called My Friend Pedro, and like you said, I just saw this game and it made me laugh. It's a smiling banana on the cover called My Friend
good
Pedro,
marketing.
and I was like, I don't even know what this is. I had I had no. That's the one thing Game Pass doesn't like give you like what the users review it as. Like, I wish they kind of did because I
Yeah,
think this is one I probably never would have downloaded it, but I really was just looking through everything one day. I never heard anybody talk about this, and it is. I would say what it really is it's kind of like remember old Xbox Live Arcade games when
yeah,
that was just a fun time and there were cool things coming out for like $10. That's what this is. I wouldn't even call this like cool kid indie. This isn't like Stray, which is a game I played also, or like this is like Xbox Live Arcade indie. But it is very fun. It is 2D and you kind of just are on these snappy quick levels a lot like Super Meat Boy, but you are running through these different environments and you're basically a gunman on a rampage trying to get back at this person. And there's a floating banana that is telling you to do this and to fight these people and to do this stuff. So it's kind of alluded like, is that like a drugs thing telling them, or you're on like a drug fueled rampage? What's going on? But these levels are like 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and you're getting shotguns, you're getting pistols, you're riding skateboards down like walls. You can actually, it's the first 2D game I can think of that you can split your aim, and you can lock on with one weapon and aim with the other weapon. So you can have two Uzis and you can slow down time and do flips and parkour and stuff. You can ricochet bullets, and it becomes very much like a puzzle game as you go further. They introduce all these little mechanics, kind of like a Super Mario 3D world, where every time you jump in a level, it's a new mechanic. That's how this was. It's just new thing, new thing, new thing, subvert it. But you don't die very often. I breezed through it in like a couple of playthroughs, and I really liked it a lot. It was very fun, very trippy, and it's one that if I had been a kid and I had it on Xbox Live Arcade, I might have dabbled with trying to go on the leaderboards. This has leaderboards, so they figured out that feature.
They figured that out.
Maybe Halo, and
That's
they're
what
really
343 had to go away and learn.
yeah, they're good leaderboards too. They're the ones that let you see what your friends did and stuff. So I don't know who. There's somebody on my friends list that played it, and I was a lot better than them at the game, but I don't know who it was.
Your friend Pedro.
My friend Pedro. So that was my friend Pedro. And then the last game I mentioned a second ago was Stray. I don't know how I got this for free on PlayStation. I don't know if it's I subscribed. Yeah, I subscribed to their little extra thing. But just a really cool indie game. I won't get too in the weeds. I played it. It's pleasant. It's like 3-4 hours. It's like Half-Life 2 kind of, where you're kind of moving throughout this city, and there's like dystopian like robot cops, keeping the other robots down. And I would say even if you don't like cats, it is a good game. But if you like cats, it's pretty much a must play, because it's a good game and it's fun being the cat and walking around and doing cat stuff. And you go into a club, like you do all these weird things that like, you're like trying to. There's this old movie I watched as a kid called That Darn Cat. Have you ever heard of that? It's back in the 50s when Disney did live action movies, and it's this girl gets kidnapped, and this cat is a stray cat, and he's in this little warehouse where this kidnapped girl is, and she etches on the cat's little collar like help. I don't know. And like basically the cat, the cops figure out that this cat knows where this girl is. I don't even know. It's bullcrap. But basically this cat is like messing with the bandits, messing with the cops, messing with the kids, like, and just
you
like
get to mess with people in this game.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, like you need to steal like a jacket for this robot who's going to go in this warehouse and get like this battery, whatever. And there's a shop, and these guys are like loading, they're loading all the stuff in the boxes. You can jump in the box, and then they pick it up and carry it into the shop, whereas there's a guy shooing you away. Or you can knock over, you can knock over a bucket of paint, and like it makes a big mess they have to clean up. And then a little bit of Untitled Goose Game type shenanigans as a cat. And then when you step in the paint and you walk around, little cat footprints are all over the place. So
nice.
It's just nice little cat fun shenanigans.
Fun shenanigans. It sums it up.
Good game. Good game.
Cool. Is that it for games?
That's it. I played a lot this month, but
okay.
That's it.
Yeah. I watched one movie. Like I said, it was all Walking Dead all month. But earlier this month, I watched Babylon. And Babylon, we already said last year, my movie of the year last year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that ended up winning an Oscar.
It did.
For best picture or whatever. And I think that moved down to my second spot because Babylon takes the number one. Babylon is my type of movie. All I'd heard about this, one thing I knew was the director of La La Land, David Chazelle, whatever, I don't even his name.
Yeah, Chazelle.
Chazelle, whatever. But he did La La Land, Whiplash, First Man, and so I was in for anything that he would do, but the reviews started coming out, and people said, "Oh yeah, all the test screenings, people were walking out within the first 5 minutes." and it has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever it's at. And I was like, oh, now I definitely have to see this movie. And yeah, with those first 5 minutes, you are either in or out. This game is, or not this game, this movie. I'm still thinking of Atomic Heart. This is Atomic Babylon. The outrageousness of this movie is its humor. And so the concept of the movie, premise of the movie is it's 1920s and it's people in the movie industry and people trying to break into the movies industry, and these characters are interacting with each other and trying to, you know, bring people in and help others out and stuff, and get, you know, rub shoulders and try to get famous and all this other stuff going on. So it's during the silent era, of course, and then going into when people, you know, the talkies and stuff when they add sound, but it's during that lavish, you know, all this lavish culture and outrageousness and over the top, you know, riches and stuff. So it's so over the top that, like I said, those first 5 minutes, you're going to find a scene that will immediately let you know what kind of movie this is. But there was multiple scenes where me and my wife were watching this crying, laughing, and we ate it up. We loved this movie because the stuff they set up and the patience they have to set up different scenes, and the, you know, the gimmick with the scene or stuff that they're doing is so freaking funny. There's so much payoff to that. Um, what's her name? Mark, or what's the Margot Robbie?
Yeah.
Robbie?
Yeah, Margot Robbie, I think.
Yeah. She's in this. We have freaking Toby Maguire plays a very deranged individual in this. It is such a fun time. Like I said, first 5 minutes, if you don't like it, get the frick out. Because it'll hit the eject button, because I get like you're not gonna like the rest of the movie.
I kind of
But
want to check it out. I haven't seen Toby in anything besides like Spider-Man recently. So
yeah, he's very freaking funny in this. Everyone does it a phenomenal job. It's such a fun watch. And that is my movie of 2022. I have to go back retroactively and say that because didn't get to watch in time. But that's Babylon. Highly recommended.
It seems like there might be some overlap, like thematically, with this and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was also about an era in Hollywood with the changing of the, you know, from silent films, or it wasn't silent films. It was more like the more kind of non-acting type, you know, action, you know, like Western guys, to the deeper character type movies. And would you say you like this? Are they apples and oranges? Are they similar
share
at all?
that same type of DNA strand probably in it. I will say, like, at the very end, it has an ending that celebrates these movies. Like, that was part of it, is like celebrating what movies are and the fun that you get to have. I didn't get to mention this. Luckily, you know, we fricked up the first recording. I didn't get to mention this. There is a part in this movie, as someone that has worked on, you know, short films and done this work, that really was like, yeah, that's what it feels like. That's really cool. I haven't seen that done in a movie yet, where all this crap is going wrong, and it's very funny because it's just so much is going wrong, but then it all comes together miraculously at the last minute. Everything like works together, how they're supposed to get the shot, and weather and all this other stuff's going on, and it clicks, and there's like a crescendo and stuff in the middle of this movie of all this happening, and it's like, that's cool. Like that comes through. So, and then the ending is that kind of celebration of movies. So underneath the hilarity of what they're just trying to do, there is another story they're telling, which is, hey, making movies is really fun, and like this industry is fun. It's fricked up, it's terrible in a lot of ways, but like the actual movie making process, if you can get to it, is like really cool. And it can only be like a split second, but you're waiting for those milliseconds to be good. And when those milliseconds are good, it's like it blows up and it's beautiful. And I think that movie portrays that, is like that millisecond of everything working out made all this hell worth it. So
that's cool.
That really resonated with me too. So I think that was like an undercurrent, which is like, oh, like I like that a lot. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that sounds like a really interesting movie. I don't know. I've been not watching as many new movies the last couple of years. I don't know. I've seen a lot of Marvel movies and stuff, but I used to keep up more with, like, that was a big movie at the end of last year. I thought Babylon wasn't it? Like, I know it had, a lot of, mixed reaction, but it seemed like a lot of people were watching it. No, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was at the movies the other night and saw Scream 6, which the Scream series, I only saw the first one, and then I saw the fifth one and the sixth one. But if you've never seen them, they're horror movies, but um, they are kind of comedy slash horror, I would say. Like they definitely have, jumpy parts, and they're supposed to be suspenseful, but they're not. I don't know. I'm very picky with horror. Like I don't like, Hills Have Eyes and like really like gross spirited things, right? What's funny about like Scream, all of them is it's like very vicious. Like they murder the crap out of people and stab them, and like they're getting them with the knife and all that. But like they're goofy and the characters are goofy, and when the killer reveals himself, it's always like the least person you'd expect. That's like what these movies are known for. And then obviously when they make several of these, it's harder and harder to not expect the person you don't expect. So they have really played into that. Like these movies have always been meta. The characters are always like, oh, well, you don't want to be left alone, or you don't want to have sex, or you don't want to do this, because that's what happens, Like even in 1998 or whatever, when the first one came out, that's what they were saying in the movie. That's kind of what the movie kind of made that famous. Well, they, in the modern era with like reboots and all that stuff, they have taken that to the absolute like extreme with these last two movies. And I made the comparison, the Matrix, what was it? Reloaded? What was that? Not Reloaded. Resurrection?
Resurrections.
When that movie started, which I still freaking love the beginning of that movie, they are just talking about making another Matrix. Like that's like what's happening in the movie. And this is, I would say, of the same spirit. Like the characters, they talk about like, okay, well, if we're going to reboot it, like, last movie was the reboot. This is the sequel to the reboot. Like, but they never leave the planet of like, this is still a horror movie. Like they find ways to have those fun conversations and stuff, but it's still a horror movie, and it's not like this is parody. So it was really fun. I have big holes in my knowledge. This was like the end game of Scream movies. Basically, every time the killer killed somebody in this movie, they left a mask, and they were leaving the masks from all the other movies. So they were using clues from who the killers were in the other movies to like tip off what the next thing was going to be. And I saw the first one and the fifth one. So but it was still fun. Like I had a good time. It wasn't that crazy, but it was, I thought it was cool that they went to that level of having fun with it. And I don't know. It's a cool series, and I didn't really have the appreciation. I don't know. You and I are both later in our life watching horror movies, because you didn't watch those at all growing up, and my mom didn't let us have that stuff. I never really internalized this, but Halloween, the first one was like late 70s, right? Early 80s, like 79, 80, 81.
77.
77, right?
78.
So that movie kicked off the slasher movie. But quickly lost its way, as we know very well. Like Halloween really lost its way, but I don't think I ever realized it really was gone in the late 90s. Like H2O came out. That was the one where she ran like the prep school. That was after Scream. And a lot of people call that Halloween Scream because the screenwriter that made Halloween, or the first Scream, was asked to go, hey, you did such a good job on Scream, go resurrect Halloween. Because before that movie, Halloween, they had completely lost it. Like they had like cultists and robes and like Paul Rudd. And I didn't realize Halloween was kind of dead as a franchise for 5 or 6 years. There's even longer than that. Nightmare on Elm Street also had lost its way, and Friday the 13th had lost its way. So Scream, I was reading up on it, really like resurrected those slashers. And then you can watch Scream 1 came out, and then Halloween had a resurrection. There was another Friday the 13th. There was another Nightmare on Elm Street. In a lot of ways, I'm reading people kind of say Scream saved that genre big time. So I was reading people, like I saw a thread on Reset Era, like which is the best horror franchise, and it was Halloween versus Scream, and it was like it was pretty even. People arguing one way or the other, and I was surprised because I'm more of a Halloween guy because that's what we watch every year. But I'm getting one over to Scream. It's definitely the
Nice.
more consistent franchise. It is like every movie is good, at least good in that, and that is maybe not true. I think Halloween 1 is great, and then Halloween 2 is whatever, and Halloween 3 is weird, and then after that it's Looney Tunes for a while. So, yep, Scream 6 was fun. Also, the last thing I'll say is it takes place in New York City, and it captures all the things you would want to see. Like, there's a bodega part where like the killer chases them from an alley into like a grocery store, like a little New York City grocery store. So like, okay, well, there's people in here. Like, he'll leave them alone. He comes in and just starts stabbing everybody in the grocery store. And then the owner of the grocery store gets out a shotgun, and then they lose track of the killer, and the killer comes up and kills the guy with the shotgun and picks up the shotgun and starts like hunting them through the store with the shotgun. And there's a great subway scene with 2 different trains on Halloween night. So the scream face killer is like famous. So people in the subway are wearing the masks. And so there's this scene where they don't know if these people are killers or not. And there's a bunch of fake outs, and they're on 2 different trains. The group gets split up. There's a great scene in Central Park. So yeah, it's kind of a really cool New York kind of vibe movie too, which I always like.
Nice.
So
Scream.
that's Scream 6.
That's Scream. Well, I think we have recovered the podcast. Also, actually, because we tacked on the Zelda DLC discussion, now there is an E3 DLC discussion, really short. I don't know if you saw the update today that Tencent and Sega are also not going to be at E3. It's dead. I think it's gonzo, unfortunately.
But you know who
people were
is
saying the
confirmed?
communication sucks. They're not communicating well because people are like, they don't.
Yeah.
It sounds like from people in the industry, they're like, they cannot get communication right. And if you can't do that, it's like, we're not going to drop thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Like, you know,
I was
tens of
reading
thousands of dollars.
I was reading on it, and what happened twice was the ESA had a spreadsheet, like a Google sheet, with every single media member that was attending and their address and their personal phone number and everything. And number one, that is a horrible, like, data security. You can't have 2 personally identifiable pieces of information in any data set anywhere unless it's encrypted and you get their permission. But they had it all on a sheet.
How did they get?
But hold on. What was happening was when vendors would reach out, like, hey, I'm doing this for, for Epic, or I'm doing this for whatever. I need this person's contact information. I was reading an article. They were sharing the sheet with all the information to vendors. Like, not using the sheet and pulling one person, which is still bad. You have the sheet. They were sharing the entire sheet to anybody that asked. So it kept leaking because other people had it.
Yeah. But what happened? Because was it always like this?
I don't
feel
know.
like they have ginormous shows. They have like a lot going on the show floor. Did the management had to have changed?
Well, I read
some point, when Sony like bounced, I think it probably changed a little bit before that, and Sony just got sick of it. I bet it was a very recent change from before they left. And then when everybody left and then COVID happened, of course, whatever. But I think leading up to that, I think management changed and somebody dropped the ball.
ESA.
I mean, with the cheat, all this other stuff, I think somebody just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I don't know enough.
Why would you do that for decades? Because it was 90, I think 7 was the first one, 96 was the first one. So it's like somewhere in the 90s. But there's no way they did 20 plus years of this hell of like having a sheet and all this other stuff. Like, there had to have been a loss somewhere in there.
I don't know enough about the ESA, even what they are. They must do more than E3. I hope for them they do more than E3 because they're losing E3. But what I did read somebody say, because somebody was like, man, the ESA sucks. That's why no one's going. And I was like, you must work for the ESA or something. posted a very long response and was like, "You don't know anything. ESA is not at fault. They contracted out the IT management of blah 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 to Red Funny or something, and that's who had the sheet." And all I could think was, "You don't know anything. You're responsible for what your vendors do." Like, like it doesn't matter if you contract out. You contracted out because you didn't want to pay for it yourself because you didn't want to do
but
it.
that falls on you. Yeah,
It falls on you. Yeah.
It goes back up the ladder to Dumbo.
Yeah. So I
Number
was like,
2.
we've got ESA defenders out here. The only thing I'll say about it is I don't relate to the people that are like, good, why do we need it? I'm seeing a lot of that from people, and I don't relate. I loved E3. I loved E3.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
That was DLC update to that. I think that's enough DLC updates. I'm still at the very end of Walking Dead. I'm about to finish up season 7 tonight. You know,
we're like a live service podcast now. We just have
really
to,
are.
like, you know,
we should do this every single day. We should do a daily pod. You know, there are places that are on the internet.
Yeah, they do daily
uploads.
uploads. Yeah, they do daily uploads.
Isn't that H3? They do it like, don't they do a daily like stream thing? It's like, what do you have to say every day?
Yeah,
but you know what? We might be getting behind the times because like there are people that want daily stuff. But
well, what it is our podcast between these two pieces is 2 hours and 10 minutes. If we captured the thing that happened every day and did a 5-minute video and said my brutally honest opinion, and it was like Zelda with like googly eyes, my brutally honest opinion, and like a fuse, like a stick in a rock, we'd probably get 100,000 views. Zelda sucks. And then, and the thumbnail says something different than what the title says. And then you kind of say like, Breath of the Wild, shock, can't believe it. You know, like you just say something crazy in the wording.
They did what to Zelda?
Yeah, they did what? Yeah. Maybe we should do that.
I get like a weekly thing, but like I can't wrap my head around like what could you say every day that's not going to be stupid. But
I know.
Some hot takes.
I know. I follow a guy.
On the internet, take a week and think about something.
Yeah.
Like you don't actually have to think about everything all the time. Everything everywhere at once. See that with that movie? That's why it moved down to my second spot.
All right.
Well, I think that is our DLC fix to this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this feature-rich podcast. In the next one, you may be able to fuse with us and create new podcasters. You may be able to, you know, I don't know, plug something to your USB and create a new system.
You know, if only I had that recall feature when I accidentally made OBS crash on the last podcast. I could have used that in real life.
Yeah. Well, that's our podcast for this month. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Hey, check us out on Twitter, DweeBros on Twitter, and we stream on Thursdays for Hangouts. What will we do this week? Who knows? What will we do next week? Who knows? What will we do 1 year from now? Who knows? But hope you guys have enjoyed. See you later.